Oh, hello. I made a special opening for today.
Very nice. That was a organ, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. I was gonna say accordion. I'm like, that's incorrect.
Correct. That is incorrect. Yeah, the organ is one of my favorite spooky instruments. Hello, hello. We're gonna give it a few minutes for everybody to get in here, to get the alert.
To come be our friend.
Yes, I'm hoping that more than 2 people want to talk about vampires on a August day.
If not, Sam and I will just talk about vampires for 6 hours, and
CB will like leave us after 3, and then we'll just start talking.
No, maybe I'll just stay here and like go to sleep and then wake up, and you guys are like still talking about vampires, and I'll cry a little inside.
Don't challenge
and
us.
then I'll finish packing, still on live, load my car, still on live, and just start driving to school. You
Just
guys
going
are
down
still talking about vampires.
And so this South African vampire.
you're not wrong.
Dio is one of the vampires I will talk about. Hey. Hello, everybody. Well, you said everyone. Also, I just giving everyone a heads up. Y'all already know I do weird voices and accents. Thanks to my love of classic horror movies and back scene things, often attempt a very poor Bela Lugosi accent whenever I talk about vampires. It's so much fun to do, and I can't stop. But I don't even promise to try, to be honest. Hello. Hello. Yeah! Free Mondays! Freedom! My Mondays are iffy because sometimes they'll be free when Chris doesn't work on a Tuesday. And then when he does work on a Tuesday, I have to put my children to sleep.
Ew.
Yeah.
Children.
I at school, and I scheduled it so none of my classes are when Livestream starts. I have no classes because we have like later classes. So my latest class ends 50 minutes before this live stream starts.
I mean,
yes, that goes
priorities.
My thoughts.
I am very honored that my immortal apprentice has like scheduled her life for her Mondays around me.
You know, I'm just that good. I'm so much better than the other one.
Hold on.
The other one.
You can screenshot that and send it to Matt. But hello. Oh, I don't know if I clicked on this. Sorry. Also, everybody, I'll probably bring this up a few times as I see the viewer count change. I am running on an hour of sleep due to things both inside and outside of my control. So here we are. But I took very detailed notes. Don't worry. And I know how to use the search feature on Milenote.
There's a search feature on Milenote?
Yeah, you hit Control F. And I mean, it's for the paid version. I don't know if the free version has it, but the paid version
I have
does.
the paid version because I am.
I know
obsessed
you do.
like you.
I'm saying this for the audience.
Oh, for the rest of the class? Okay.
Yes, for the rest of the class.
My bad.
Also, I'm wearing Mermaider and Just is wearing Sorrow from Black Moon Cosmetics because we're both kind of obsessed now.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. So the thing about that is my sister and I actually found it like years ago, but we never had the money or the means to like try it. And then I forgot about it. So when you linked it, I was like, that makeup place I wanted to try. I have some money now.
I have this thing called money.
I mean, it's not a lot of money, but anniversary gift.
But I can also try now.
After Chris was like, hey, do you want to get some more makeup for your birthday? And I was like, yes. And then like I picked out what I wanted and stuff. And he comes home and he's like, by the way, there's going to be a package coming in for you for your birthday. Do not touch it. And I'm like, okay then,
I guess.
Sir.
I don't understand people who like open presents before they're supposed to.
If a package comes to my house, I open a package.
Well, yeah, that's different. But like,
That-
people
that's why
who,
he's
like,
telling me
open
not to
birthday
touch it.
presents early and like then close them back up for Christmas presents.
Oh,
I like surprises. Like, try and figure out what it is. Here for that. Surprise.
yeah. I mean, you do you, boo, but that is not me. All right, we are about 5 minutes in. Go ahead. Introduce
Hello.
thyselves.
My name is Jessica, and I do more booktube content than authortube content, if we're being honest. But I post writing, reading, and book-related content on my channel, which I'm sure is linked down below. And you can come hang out with me. And sometimes I do talk about vampire things, because I read a lot of vampire novels. That's me, not a CB.
Hello. I'm CB Ferrenz, writer, teenager, YouTuber, college student.
She doesn't remember.
I'm real tired today. And on my channel, I talk about how those things come together, or rather don't. I make skits, I give semi-reliable writing advice, and I do occasionally productive writing sprints. And soonish, I will be back from my unwanted and unintentional hiatus.
I am Writing Mom Samantha Nasset. This is my channel where I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer parent things. I host videos I host live streams like these on Mondays, where sometimes we talk about things and other times we do write-ins. So we do writing sprints and then talk about whatever we want. When I post videos, I post them on Thursdays. Unfortunately, because of my chronic illness and brain fog, I can no longer post weekly, but I still post 1 or 2 monthly. That is my current goal. So yay, check those out on Thursdays when they come out. My next one is the genre umbrella for fantasy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my genre umbrella video. To keep up to date with all things Sam, you can sign up to my newsletter linked down below at my website, SamanthaLNasich.com. If you would like to help support the channel and maybe get me a new van, some lip colors, just felt left out. You can donate to my Ko-fi.
Give Sam money!
Which is also linked down below. You can find either of my lovely co-hosts via their links down below. I think that's everything. That's gonna be everything for the moment, or Fox will yell at me, I'm sure. All right, so today we're going to discuss vampires, which I'm sure everybody who's come here probably came here because they're like, yes, vampires in like modern media, the bloodsuckers, the life stealers, the people who can't go outside or eat garlic and whatnot. You are partly right, because I love history and I love historic monsters and I love knowing the origin for modern things. We're also going to talk about them in history. And oh boy.
This is my vampire impression.
So our first talking point tonight is going to be, what is a vampire? Which is also one of the questions on CB's list.
It is?
Wasn't it? Like vampire origins?
Yes.
CB doesn't know what was on her list.
Yeah.
CB, I remember her questions better than her.
Yeah.
So, question real quick. Chat, if I asked you to define a vampire, how would you define a vampire? And while you go ahead and answer, I want to share some Hollywood info about modern vampires. You see, the thing is, we got to talk about zombies when we talk about vampires, because originally what a zombie was a reanimated corpse under the control of dark magic, whether it was like a lich or a sorcerer or a shaman or a vampire. Vampires could actually create zombies. That's all they were. They were just a lifeless corpse that did whatever their master told them to. A vampire, on the other hand, could have been a fucking number of things. Oh, Fox has a good point. CB, how would you define a vampire? We should get that out the way too.
Thank you, Fox, for calling on me. A supernatural creature that sucks blood. That's it. That's
That
all
would
I
be
know.
me.
That's Jess.
Please don't, Jess. Pretty sure that's legal.
A being that steals the life force of another. Tons of variations therein. So, some of the like original vampiric beings were like ancient demons or gods that demanded blood sacrifice or ate people. But the first time anything was called a vampire was a reanimated corpse that like came out of its grave, went to harass the living, and then went back to its grave. And like depending on the culture, depends on what this harassment could entail. They could like eat people, or some of them did their household chores.
I want one of those.
Jess is like, can I have a vampire who just comes home to do the dishes and then goes back to their grave?
Sam, we should say why you guys know stuff and why I don't know stuff. Like the thing we said right before the stream started. How Jess watches stuff and you watch stuff and Jess reads.
Oh, okay. So part of why I know everything that I know about vampires is because of my previously said love and obsession, and I've spent the past 2-3 days doing nothing but reading about vampires history and around the world. As she got screenshots. She's seen my Mila note. She like, I woke up one day and she's like, Sam, I didn't realize we were doing a dissertation.
I thought you said notes, not research for your dissertation.
Same thing for Sam. Jess enjoys and reads a lot of vampire literature, so she's probably going to be where we get most of our like modern vampire book knowledge from. And CB is our audience surrogate, who knows
everything I know about vampires came from that one episode of Doctor Who, Supernatural. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, to be fair, Supernatural does like some.
Yeah, they actually do a really good job on their.
That's
on the
also everything I knew about Christianity when I took a Christianity test in school. Aced it.
That's wild.
I mean,
yeah,
can't complain. Can I help you?
Can I watch 15 seasons of it repeatedly?
The doggy wants to suck your blood.
I think he does.
But yeah, the what is and what isn't a vampire is actually pretty wild. It's a far more generic and umbrella term than I realized it was. Like when I started my research for this, I understood maybe 10 kinds of vampires, and there's like 40. There's like so many different kinds of vampires. And yeah, like I was saying, the first time the term vampire was used was for the reanimated corpses that came back to do things and may or may not have fed on people. Like not all of them did.
Was originally a zombie.
Yes. Well, that's what I was saying about modern day zombies. Modern day zombies are actually closer to the original European vampires. And modern vampires are pretty closely related to the vampires of Eastern Europe, or like specifically Slavic belief systems. Slavic, yes. I don't know if I said that right. All right. I think I hit everything. Let's go to chat real quick. Chat, I'm going to try my best to not just spew all of the knowledge that's bursting. I'm so excited to share all of the things I've learned.
I ran over a wiener dog.
Don't run over the wiener.
I ran over a wiener dog.
I have that line from 6 stuck in my head now. I'm a Wiener switch. I'm a Wiener Schnitzel, not the English flower.
I have 7 dogs in my house right now, so I'm living the dream.
So a being that steals the life force of another, I think I read that, but a human-like being that is dead and lives off of the life force of living humans, usually blood. So funny thing, like I was saying, not all vampires actually feed off of the living, which was wild to me. I thought that was the one thing they all had in common.
I thought that was the thing. Like, that's what defines a vampire.
There's literally one that is like, yeah, this is a vampire in this culture, and they don't eat people. They just haunt cemeteries.
That's a ghost.
That's their thing. No, they are a vampire.
They're corporeal, so they're vampires. It's that whole thing where vampires were originally what we consider a zombie.
But not all ghosts are corporeal, because Icelandic ghosts are... I mean, not all ghosts are incorporeal, because Icelandic ghosts are corporeal. And their zombies are also considered ghosts because of that. It's like cultures are wild. And when you look especially at something like vampires that exists in like every culture in the world, and you'll start to see trends in certain parts of the world, but then there's like this one that's so super specific to Ireland and somewhere in the South Americas. And I was like, why? Why you do? Why here?
Would that vampire that I wouldn't consider a vampire that doesn't feed off of humans also be considered a ghoul?
It could be, but ghouls are a type of vampire.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, ghouls are a type of vampire. They are considered to have no willpower of their own and are usually minions. But that's because a vampire was originally just a reanimated corpse. That's what they were. They didn't necessarily eat people.
Now I'm curious how they went through the guy that does your dishes to the lord of a castle who wears fancy capes and speaks with the
Bram Stoker. That's how.
Oh, that guy.
Bram Stoker's
Dracula. Very quick transition. It was just the one author or creator.
He popularized it, yeah. But there were other myths like that. There's an Irish myth about this. What was he? He was, I think, a king, and he ruled over a village, and he was really shitty to them, and he practiced dark magic, and they got tired of his ass, so they killed him, and then they buried him, but they buried him standing upright because, like, was a sign of respect back then. And even though he was a shitty ruler, he was still their king, so they're like, we still gotta bury him respectfully. But then, like, he came back to life and was all like, feed me blood now. And a warlord
at least buried him upright. I mean,
a warlord killed him, and then he came back the next night demanding blood, and they killed him again. And after like 3 nights of this, the warlord's like, "Hey, I'm done with this. Can somebody fucking, like, you people who know magic, what do we do?" And they killed him with, I think he had to be killed with a sword of yew wood and something else.
Supernatural.
So it's like, Dracula wasn't the first, nor is it the only vampiric tale where vampires were nobles or in power. It's just most commonly they were beings who came back from the dead to do a thing.
Google things.
Yeah. I'm still going through everybody's definitions. Blood drinking immortal powers that may or may not possess dark magic. Don't know why I said immortal powers. It's a special kind of powers. I feel you. Some vampires eat died dishes.
I mean, I don't think that's on the list of their weaknesses. But that's
don't worry, Fox.
Teenagers.
I'm saving that story. It's fine. About I would love for Alucard to come do my dishes. That would be great. Now, one of the trends in Europe was that vampires were like, the reasons that they came back were very similar. Like, they were dead children, or they were women who died in childbirth, or they were somebody who wasn't buried properly, so they came back to seek vengeance on those who didn't give them proper burial rights. Hold on, let me go.
Is familiar. The other one, she was like, yes.
They were excommunicated from the church. They were born outside of wedlock. if you were in ancient Greece and you were a redhead with gray hair, or with gray eyes, you were sus. If you were in Albany and you were a redhead with blue eyes, you were sus.
Where's Albany?
Albany, it's in the Balkan Peninsula in this. Google it on a map.
Continent?
Does she look like a globe?
I
You
can
did all
fucking
this
do it on a
research.
map
You're just
down
talking about your fucking disrotation.
on vampires, not geography. I know what continents it's on. That's all I need to know.
It's more than I got, so.
And then there's like some cultures had very specific things, like the seventh child of children who were all the same gender was sus. That anybody who was disfigured or slightly othered, you were sus too.
Oh, great.
Lefties, CB. It's okay, I'm a bastard child. I'm sus in so many cultures. So many.
Same.
Yeah, this is all saying Albany, New York, which I'm pretty sure is not what you're talking about.
It's okay, Crystal. You, me, and CB, we're all sus together.
Albany. There's
Now-
so many Albanys in the U.S.
There is. No, Albania, not. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's on you. I'm not. It was Albania,
I'm
is by
chronically
Greece.
Southern.
Macedonia, and Kosovo. I lost it. The Google.
I was about to say, don't forget the lefty fuck, which makes me triple. Also, like children born with a tail, which I'm like, how many children were born with a tail?
I don't
But
have
this
that
was-
one.
I know. I like how you like look like you were checking. Did I have a tail?
I was like, it could show up every once in a while. Like, right now. Gotta keep
Now-
prepared for anything.
There were some pretty specific and some pretty like kind of wild beliefs, but I want to like reference them as we talk about modern media as
Okay.
more of a kind of this makes sense from a evolution of mythology viewpoint.
I think it was
So-
the evolution of vampires, and I'm like, are they Pokemon?
Let's talk geography September 6th.
That
No.
was-
We're not doing that.
I can't name all 56.
I was born with extra fingers. You would be sus. That
Yeah,
was
vampire.
also listed.
Extra
Okay.
appendages.
Jess, did you want to pick a talking point? I like to let my guests pick one, especially
No,
since you didn't actually give me a list.
I gave you a talking point. One
I can ask
single
questions.
solitary.
All right,
Ask a question. Go ahead.
CB here to
Cool.
save you.
My first question.
Yes.
Why are vampires hot? Some vampires, I acknowledge that all vampires are hot. The ones that look like ghouls. And
So this actually, a lot of people would want to credit this to Anne Rice because, like, Bram Stoker's Dracula wasn't, while he was alluring, it was in like an unearthly and kind of magical, creepy way. Whereas Anne Rice wrote her vampires to be very hot and sexy and alluring and like,
She romanticized
no.
them.
yeah, she romanticized them. However, there have been myths and myths and lore and legends about specific kinds of vampires being sexy, seductive, and tempting throughout history. Like,
I think
go ahead.
that also connects to the Fae and how, like, in most cultures, the Fae are considered incredibly beautiful, but also can have characteristics of some vampires. There's like some crossover in some.
There's actually two Fae vampire myths, one in Ireland and one in Scotland.
Yeah, there's some crossover. So that might have something to do with it also.
Yes. But like the Scottish I'm going to fuck up this pronunciation, but I'm gonna try. Bahashid? No, it was Bavashid. I think it's
Okay.
Bavanshi. Anyway, So yeah, them and the Irish Leonshi were both like they appeared in the forms of beautiful women whose purposes was to tempt men deep into the woods to eat them.
Valid. My
See,
theory was
when
someone's blood, it's easier to get close to them if you're hot.
See, I was going to add incubus and succubus in here because technically they are, they steal life essence via sex, and they, other vampires are life stealers. However, because incubus and succubus steal life via sex and not via eating or drinking, they actually are considered a different thing, and they're not considered. They're like vampire cousins, but not vampires.
They're the weird cousin.
They're a really weird cousin.
I mean, so are vampires.
Really
the shrimps. I'm gonna tell you about the shrimps in a moment. Dio's hot because he's using Jonathan's body. There's no lie. There is no lie there. Hello.
But I'm definitely with
we're just
CD.
chatting.
I think modern wise, it helps you convince people to like, because now, like, as grown adults that we are, we see when someone is suspect. So they have to like make them really attractive for us to be like, I don't really care that they're suspect.
Yeah,
you can murder.
it's
I don't
also-
care. You're hot. So
there's a difference in purpose too, because like the hot, sexy, seductive, the Nosferatu, the Lideric, I think that's Mulo, all of those kinds of vampires, they were moral warnings. They're like, these hot, attractive demons are gonna like fuck you and then suck you dry, not in the fun way.
So
and it's like,
now.
yeah,
I'm
hot
two
people
for
are
two.
dangerous. Like don't fall for it. That's kind of part of what Dracula, the moral of Dracula is like, don't be persuaded by foreign nobles who want to seduce you and give you all the monies, because they're gonna kill you. So it's, and then like when Anne Rice wrote her sexy vampires, it was to, like Jess was saying, to romanticize them, to humanize them. They were no longer the monsters of mythology. They were now the heroes, the protagonist. They weren't something to be killed. They were something to be empathized with. And like, humans be kinky and have their, things, and they're like, you know what? That's hot. And then now we have a plethora of sexy vampire fiction. I know we have not. The cousin you don't talk to during the holidays. But why not? The Nosferatu is doing the same shit.
That kind of leads into one of my other questions, which where does the vampires being good guys come from? Like the protagonists being vampires instead of the bad guys being vampires?
I could be wrong, but I do think Anne Rice was the first one to make them the good guys.
Okay, when was that? Like, what time period did she write?
80s? 1980s?
Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Before my birth?
Was it prior to our birth?
I think so. I think it was the late 80s. I was born in 90 exactly. So anything 80s was before me.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Jess is going to fact check that fact for us.
Mm-hmm.
I believe.
And while she does that, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to find the name of it. Let me look for the word shrimp on my board, because the world needs to know.
She actually wrote it in 1973.
Oh, okay. So 70s.
Sad factoid. It published in 1976, but she wrote it after the death of her daughter.
I
wonder if that's why she has that weird young character that lives forever.
That's what a lot of people theorize, was that character was that the reason book one, whichever one's book one is written in a drastically different tone than the rest of them, and a lot of people theorize it's because she was using it to cope with her depression, and then after she like came out of her grief for her daughter, her writing style changes.
Well, you know,
As happens.
she's been making vampires hot for 50 years. Your husband has bad comments sometimes.
That's
It is not inaccurate. That's what happened.
I dropped a ladder on my foot today.
Okay, so the Tunda of Colombian beliefs.
Is that another type of vampire?
Yeah, she's a shape-shifting entity that's usually human female. She lures people into the forest and she keeps them there. Now, depending on her target, certain things change. If she's luring children in, she'll often disguise herself as their mother. And then once she's lured them in order to keep them docile, she'll feed them shrimp that she farted on.
Why?
I want to know, like, I want to know how some of these myths
Why
came into
shrimp?
being.
Why'd she have to fart on it? And why are the children tempted by shrimp? That's not even as good as candy.
Well, I assume shrimp because it's in like Colombia, so that's like a cultural thing that I probably just don't get. Like maybe that's just the easy thing. I just want to know why she farted on it. That is my only question.
Maybe this was from a time period where the shrimp were like poisoned or something. Like there was something wrong with the shrimp and it was making people sick. And so they like were trying to find a way to warn the children away from eating any shrimp.
Yeah. Or like if the shrimp smelled sulfuric.
On it.
Yeah, if, like the shrimp smelled sulfuric or bad or just rotten. Just like, yeah, somebody like farted on that. But like yeah, that's the only thing. But also for part of me, when I like read these myths, because a lot of these myths and lore are treated as very like real or serious, there's like when I look up some of these articles, it's like here's historic sightings and findings and like examples of these things existing. So I like to look at it as if this is an actual thing or this was a thing. So then I become amused by the idea of somebody just watching this monster woman fart on some shrimp, feed it to some children, and then going back to the village and being like, yeah, that's how she's doing it. That's how she's keeping the kids there.
I like the idea of it being some like normal human lady in the woods, but she's kidnapping children, so I guess she isn't normal. And she uses the shrimp, but the shrimp has gone bad. So people are like, why does the shrimp smell? It's because it's gone bad. They're like, she's farting on it. But she's luring them in, feeding them bad shrimp, and the children are getting sick and they're dying. And she's like, haha, I killed children.
See, her transformation's not perfect. She'll always have a wooden leg. That is like that's in the shape of this. It's in the shape of a kid's kitchen utensil they use to stir hot drinks. But yeah, so excuse me.
Wait, she's a kitchen utensil?
I mean, kind of.
Yes, her leg is.
Also, if you take off her leg and break it in half, you can shove it through her heart and kill her.
That works in most vampire mythos.
Which leads to a question I have.
Yeah. Okay.
What are vampire weaknesses? Oh, and why are they allergic to Italy?
Okay, so first of all, in order to go over vampire weaknesses, again, so many different kinds of vampires, and depending on the region, it was going through a lot of religious reform during the time that vampire hunts were happening and everything. So you'll get things like, hold on,
holy water.
Have an example. We're no longer looking for the word shrimp, my other note. We're now looking for the word. Yes, I know. Where is the word?
I don't know.
So, is it in my extended notes? It's in my extended notes part 2.
The extended notes.
Oh, for the Striga. Okay, so is this the Striga? Which country are you from?
Strigoi is Romanian.
Yes, but this one is not. It's also it's close to Romania though. I think I know which one, but I don't want to say for sure until I double check it. That's the ancient belief section. No, yeah, Slavic Europe. That's where I want to look.
Oh no, I clicked off of it. That's not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted.
I apologize to everyone.
Oh, cool.
For Albania. There we go. So, yeah, the Striga are an Albanian myth, primarily. One of their Catholic weaknesses is holy water with a cross. An Islamic weakness for them is to send them away or kill them. You recite verses from the Quran and spit water at them. And then, like,
So they're
no, Striga are witches.
Oh.
Striga are witch. That's the other thing. You've got demon vampires, witch vampires, undead vampires, and
Sparkly vampires.
She's not lying.
We'll get there.
Oh,
We'll get there. It's in my talking points. But yeah. So some other ways to get rid of Striga specifically: a cross made of a pig bone placed at the entrance of a church on Easter Sunday can trap one inside.
that's a very specific.
Oh,
okay. So the cross
this shit
can
gets
already be
specific.
there. I think you could only trap vampire or Striga on Easter Sunday. And I'm like, that's not convenient.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is the idea that you're doing it on Easter Sunday, because otherwise I don't know how you would get it in with the pig bone already placed. You can also they can be captured and killed if they're at the threshold and they're trying vainly to get in. And to me, that just seems hilarious that they're like,
It's
you
kind of
just
sad.
capture you. There's one way to protect yourself from a Striga is, see, after they take in blood, they go into the woods and then vomit it up. If you take a silver coin, soak it in it, and then wrap it in cloth, you've got a anti-Striga amulet.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, that's sparkly. I played a vampire in college. I was Lucy in Dracula. Oh, yeah. I made a chart thinking I could know all the vampire strengths and weaknesses while searching for my current whip. That was the hardest nope of my life. Yeah, you really just gotta kind of decide which cultural vampire or just like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want
was
to
a
do.
supernatural one.
All right. We did have a question from chat, which is, what's your favorite interpretation of vampires? You can't make me choose my children. I refuse. I love so many of them. First of all, I just found out about the miracle chicken, and that is easily top 5 right now. Because, look, you could take an egg laid from a black hen and warm it in your armpit, and then it hatches into a lover that will do whatever you tell it and will hoard riches for you. The only downside is you have to keep giving it tasks, otherwise it kind of gets bored and then either dies or kills you out of boredom. But I can keep finding chores.
That sounds like a sweet ass deal.
Right?
You have to feed it.
No, it feeds itself.
You just have to give it stuff to do?
Yeah.
I'm constantly messing up my room. There will be an endless supply of chores with me around.
Hold on. That's the Liederic, and it's right here. Jess is at that.
Yeah.
I'm making sure there's nothing else.
That
It does want you have to hold it at your chest to feed it blood, or you can give it the first bite of every dish. Really, I just let it suck titty blood. Like that's fine. You can do that, because I eat a lot, and like, what if I forget to give them the first bite of something? I'm fucked. But yeah. If you want to get rid of them, you have to like try to persuade it to do something impossible, like try to haul sand with a rope or water with a sieve, or you can just lock it in the hollow of a tree.
Do hollows of trees have locks typically?
You put a rock in front of it. A spell. CB, this is a world of magic. It might be the real world, but it is a world of magic. So yeah, that's one of my current favorite ones. I'm also weirdly bemused by the shrimp fart, so I guess that's up there right now.
I have
The
questions
Strogoi.
about the type 3, the satanic lover that has goose feet.
First of all, let me tell you, finding information on the satanic lover and sorting that shit out, that took 30 minutes of my life. I'm not getting back. Because apparently it's often mixed with the fiery bird Lideric. And anyway, so Lideric could be a few different types of vampires. And they could be a chicken, they could be a tiny devil, or the rudest house guest ever.
I prefer the third one. I just think it'd be entertaining. Do it, chicken.
No, you don't, because you mean the first one?
No, the third one. The third one, the chicken.
The third one is the rudest house guest ever, which flies into your house on fire, fucks it all up, burns your walls, and then leaves doom, sickness, and bad luck in its wake as it leaves the house.
Me on a bad day.
CB's like, I'm just vibing with that one.
Yeah.
So,
crap, I am a vampire.
I'll go torment the neighbors with my vampire bud.
So another version of a Lideric is the satanic lover, which is a devil or a demon that can fly and has goose feet for some reason.
You had me until the goose feet. I was like, that's kind of
right.
awesome. Oh, goose feet, never mind.
But see, when it lands, it turns into an image of your dead lover and then has sex with you and gives you sickness and death.
Had me till the later
and
part.
it causes leaders synomas, which is nightmares and sleep paralysis.
I already got nightmares. We all good. I'm just finding my way how I can get along
I'm
with
good.
every variation
She's
of vampires.
give me any Lideric. I got this.
So the moral of that story is, don't have sex with someone that you were in love with that you know is dead.
Necrophilia is
That's a
bad.
general.
I think the moral's good.
Pretty much a safe bet to not do that.
Love that CB. Oh, we already read that. I have my top. See, it's so hard to choose because, like I said, and chat comments. A lot of people, when they think vampires, they think the modern Hollywood interpretation with maybe a few cultural differences. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the Chinese hopping vampire, which is I think a Xixing. But there's so much more out there. So
I really enjoyed the noblesse vampires that they were kind of had no idea how the modern world worked and were just kind of wandering around. And all the
I love those.
I enjoyed that. I don't know much about vampires.
CB's like, that's my favorite kind.
That's
Jess, what is
recent? It's either that or supernatural. So I'm like,
Jess, what's your favorite kind?
man.
And chat, what are your favorite kinds? We have heard Crystal has a top 6 or 7.
I mean, I do typically prefer modern day Hollywood style vampires, not necessarily the sparkly ones, but some of the others.
Nothing wrong with that.
But in your notes, which I'm sure you would notice because those were the things that I commented on, I have an obsession with Lilith. Yeah.
Lilith?
So Lilith is one of the oldest mythological characters in general. She existed throughout several societies, such as which one of the ancient ones? It was in Mesopotamia.
Sam, your mic went down a little, so you got really quiet.
Hello?
There you are.
We good? All right.
Yeah.
So in Babylon, there was a historic. I don't remember if she was a demon or a god. There wasn't a whole lot of distinction between those sometimes. But Lamashtu was the daughter of heaven. And she's this terrifying blood-sucking creature with a lion's head and the body of a donkey. And she is what
Lopsided.
a lot of people believe Lilith is mixed with her a little bit when it comes to certain things. But yeah, Lilith on her own was considered a demon in Babylonian culture, and she was depicted drinking baby blood.
Oh.
And like the Lilitu were her daughters, and they were like anthropomorphic, bird-footed wind or night demons.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then in Jewish beliefs, there are some beliefs that she was Adam's first wife, and that she got kicked out and turned into a blood-sucking demon because she didn't want to do what Adam said, is one of the beliefs. What was the other one?
Literal queen.
That's what that note is, the daughter of heaven. That is that note that you added to the Jewish.
You didn't listen to her husband?
The other note is like that's where the term lullaby comes from. Lullabies were basically a warding to keep Lilith away from your children. I will never be able to pronounce the actual wordage, but I think it was like Lilith Abai, which means Lilith be gone.
Yeah, it looks like Lilith Abai.
And then over years has turned into a lullaby.
Lilith is also the first vampiric myth to have amulets associated with warding them off or any form of protection. And that's something that's seen throughout several cultures later on. Like there's, I believe, a South American myth, a Slavic myth, and I think an Asian myth with amulets too. And it's really fascinating because it's kind of scattered. It's not like there's not a trend of any one area having it. So it's like awesome.
That's pretty cool.
The first wife of Adam. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire the Masquerade had Lilith as the first vampire, or was it Cain? See, there's another myth. I didn't find it in my research, and because it was also the children's first day of school and I had migraines all last week, I couldn't look up certain things that I wanted to look up. But there is a myth that Cain was the first vampire. So there's a lot of discourse as to whether it was Lilith or Cain who was the first vampire. Yeah, Cain and Abel. Because he spilt he spilt his brother's blood on the ground and was then in some versions it said that he was banished from the day and forced to walk the night and became the father of monsters, which some people equate to that him becoming a demon. Some people equate that to him becoming a vampire, and depending on where you look, his children were also vampires or just different kinds of monsters. But him spilling his brother's blood and then needing blood to live thing as a curse,
it's part of that same lore of like you have Cain and Abel, and clearly Cain was, I'll say, the evil of the two. And so there is a theory that some religious scholars believe that Cain was actually Adam's son with Lilith, and Abel was Adam's son with Eve. And because Lilith was part demon, it made Cain part demon. And then his betrayal to his brother is what like set his fate in stone.
Yeah, and some, I don't remember if it's scholars or just people in general, think that that's also part of why God favored Abel over Cain's sacrifice. It wasn't necessarily actually the quality of the sacrifice so much as he was just like, oh, you're that bitch's kid.
My knowledge of this scenario comes from watching Lucifer.
Yes.
Classically educated.
Lucifer is one of my favorites.
It's so good. I haven't seen the most recent season. I'm excited.
Neither have I. So
I watched Loki last night. It was really good.
I've never watched it, so I have nothing.
Brah, you gotta watch it. It's so good. After your Vampire Diary finishes.
Can I finish Vampire Diaries first?
I remembered. I had your back and shaded you as a good friend should.
I had two friends that did. They would like sit with me at lunch and like make me choose between two mildly attractive guys that they thought were extremely hot. And I'm like, they're really old.
They're really old.
We were like 14, okay?
So there's also in the Babylonian myth, there's also the Galu, which there's some discourse as to whether that just meant demon in general or specifically referred to Lilith and the Lilitu. And demons that eat people. Nom 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 nom. Oh, so interesting fact. Take with a grain of salt. I found something that says the oldest vampiric eshk, as in blood drinkers myth, is a Persian myth, and that there's like pots found with depictions of creatures trying to eat the blood of man, but I could not find any other sources to corroborate this or anything. But I also, that was like at the very beginning of my looking, and I had so much to do, so I haven't like looked very hard yet. So I want everybody, I encourage everyone, do your own Googling.
Where does the permission to enter thing come from with vampires? I touched on it earlier.
So good. So, one, this doesn't exist in the vast majority of most vampire myths. There's actually, going back to your weaknesses question, a lot of warding for vampires was to place things that were significantly religious, symbolic, whatnot of that culture in windows and doorways, any threshold into the home. Now, this myth comes from the belief, which is definitely, I want to say, Celtic or Gaelic in origin, and that area, is that a threshold is can be a portal in between the magic and the earthly. And because vampires are undead, they cannot cross that portal without permission from the living.
Interesting.
Jess has a contemplative look on her face.
No, I was just listening.
Okay, this one, I'm very serious. This question.
Yes.
In my limited experience with vampires, I've seen differences in the amount of pointy teeth that vampires have. And I'm very curious about the teeth. So there's like the classic two like pointy teeth here that just hers didn't fit anymore.
The
then
Hollywood classic, yes.
The lots of teeth that come down from like here. And then question. I've also seen things where they like suck the blood through the teeth, like little holes in the teeth.
It becomes
or do they just like bite and then just like suck from the wound?
So it comes from a mix of beliefs, because like some South American, they'll have one tooth that's like really long and they suck the blood from there. There is an African vampire that actually has hooked feet, and it like drops down. It drops down from above to grab onto its victims and then sucks their blood through its feet.
Excellent.
That's unsanitary.
Yes. And
their mouth isn't.
Kiss.
It depends on the vampire and the culture as to if they're like biting and sucking, then it's implied that they're sucking from their teeth or their mouth. But other if it's not stated, sometimes they just like take a out of people and lap it up.
Zombie.
There's a lot of times it's not even stated the way that they do it. There's one vampire in specific, the Soyakis, the one we were talking about here, Jess.
The one with the inside sucker thingy?
Yeah. It's in the Americas. Hold on, I gotta go to the Americas.
Yes, CB. Some of them have a sucker inside, like they open their mouth and a sucker comes out, like a tentacle. And latches
I don't
on.
like that.
Just like,
I don't like the thing coming out of the mouth.
So there's this one, it's a Trinidadian one, and it sucks the blood from your arms, legs, or soft parts of your body that leave blue-black marks in the morning.
like
and I'm like, so all of my friends who bruise in their sleep and don't know why.
Or someone was having
Put some
sex,
amulets up.
and they're like, I don't want to admit to having really rough sex, so instead I was attacked by a vampire when I was sleeping.
Just because there's real world reasons for why some of these myths may have come about and become popular doesn't mean anything, CB.
Sorry with my,
Well,
deduction.
there's actually a vampire that can take the form of a firefly,
Okay.
and it sucks on the blood of people at night,
It's a
and it
mosquito.
can
That's
make
a
them
mosquito.
real. Shh, it's a firefly that is a
It's
vampire, and it stopped catching on so quickly, and it can make people sick, so sick that they die. And
That's
it
a
is
mosquito.
it's believed yeah, too. Spoiler sports. That this myth came about as a way to explain malaria via mosquitoes and whatnot.
West Nile virus.
Yes.
Really bad.
The lamprey vampire. Look, there's a baboon vampire. There's like 4 different bird vampires.
To be fair,
What?
birds are scary.
I'm
There
sorry.
are. but-
Baboon vampire.
Okay,
That
but
doesn't fall in the sexy
here's
category.
also the thing. Most bird vampires are also subservient. Like
I
there's
thought there were bats. They do birds instead of bats. Or vampires.
no, the bat vampires come from Eastern Europe because they can shapeshift into wolves, bats, owls, nocturnal predators, basically.
Yeah.
That became popularized because of, can you guess it? Can you guess his name?
I forgot.
Bram Stoker. But because Dracula turned into a wolf, a mist, and a bat, and people really like the bat aesthetic for a vampire. But they're more commonly associated with birds.
Oh, I have a question I didn't put on the list of questions, so if you don't know it, that's okay.
We know
Go
it.
ahead. I'm gonna be
Where
looking
does
for my
the
bird.
vampire versus werewolf thing come from?
Ooh, I have an answer to that, but first I'm gonna tell you about the bird.
Okay.
Just because I love the bird. I don't remember. It's the Aztec bird. Aztec bird, where did you go? No, it's not that. Maybe it's not an Aztec bird. Birdie, birdie, bird. I know the word, but I don't know how to spell it. The impu. Oh, we're in Africa. So it's the impundula of the Eastern Cape in South Africa. It's a lightning bird. And it's like only manifests as lightning, except to women, in which case it manifests as a bird, and it can work as a witch's familiar, serving her loyally throughout her life.
And how is this a vampire?
Because it has an insatiable appetite for blood.
Huh. So it's either lightning
Or bird.
or bird.
And the bird's appearance can vary. It's generally black and white, but it can look like anything.
Okay.
Sometimes it just like shows up as a beautiful young man to seduce women.
Okay.
Not even necessarily to eat them, just to seduce them. And so there's one example of a sexy vampire.
Oh, no, that
Bird,
sometimes
bird,
seen riding a hyena, since witches can shapeshift into them.
Yes.
So you have a lightning bird riding a hyena.
Well, no, it would look like a regular bird when it does that.
I want it to be a lightning bird.
Well, I'm sorry.
I still think that they should transform into pelicans. I mean, if you want people to come near and be like, what the fuck is that? Turn into a pelican in a place where they don't know where pelicans are, and the people will come near, and then you kill them.
Okay,
Or
so
suck their blood or whatever.
so the connection.
Hi, me vampires.
Hold on, the connection between wolf and werewolf is where the fuck is you?
I mean, vampires and werewolves.
Yes, that one. Vampires and werewolves is most likely the Prioliki, or Priolici. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this was a creature that was basically a werewolf vampire hybrid. It was some say it was undead souls risen to harm living humans, that it was more wolf than human. It would basically it would die and come back to life as a wolf to kill people and nom people. Other beliefs are that it was a human that was born with a tail, and that it lives its life being able to shapeshift into a wolf and is basically a werewolf. But then when it dies, it resurrects, shapeshifts into a vampire, and then goes and kills things.
I'd like to be able to turn into a wolf. I think that'd be cool.
it's believed that this is what gave rise to the animal shifter vampires of Europe. I forgot what continent we were on for a second. Just had to BIB. I took so many notes.
You did. You know,
I'm just happy that I roughly remember where everything is in my notes, so I can just
it's impressive.
scroll. Thank you.
We have one of my most important questions now.
Yes.
This is for chat too.
Chat.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
If you could become a vampire, would you?
Depends.
I don't
know
know what type
vampire.
of vampire. I mean,
What we're
vampires
talking
in
about.
general. If you could become a vampire, would you?
If I could become a dampier, maybe. I don't know if I'd want to be a strigoi, but that's the only other one that I'm like, yeah. No, not that one. So that one, to be a vampire, you have to die in childbirth, and I'm like, no, never mind.
If we're talking like Rochelle Mead Vampire Academy vampire, like a Moroi, not a Strigoi, I could do that.
CV's like, I don't know.
I don't think I'm qualified to ask this question.
Yeah, so
Okay,
give you the
this is
idea.
Regretting it.
Okay,
Chris
this
was
is
into it.
the type of vampire that I would be. Okay, so Vampire Academies, Moroi are essentially like they do drink blood, but in their society, it's like normal. They have donors, so like it's not super creepy. They can also eat regular food, and they also have an affinity to control an element of magic.
So
There are no downsides.
Sunlight
I mean, you need blood.
burns, doesn't kill, but burns. And they have a mortal enemy in the Strigoi who are like crazy
As long
vampires
as
who want
it's
to kill
the
everybody.
moonlight.
Just buy nice sunscreen.
There. So kind of funny thing. So I said dampier, and Jess said a Moroi, right? Like a Vampire Academy specific Moroi, but the Moroi is an actual vampire type. Now, to explain these, I'm going to first address it. Sherry, I don't see you in chat, and you're not here, but just know this talking point is in your honor. Vampire reproduction. So
They're having a lot of sex according to our conversation so far.
Rocket.
Using a lot of people.
yes, seducing a lot of people. But what about offspring? So here's one of the things that Twilight gets hit the hardest for, which possibly
the wolf guy falling in love with like the unborn baby. That thing that was creepy.
That's not it, but it should be.
that's not it, but that's like definitely, I said one of the things, not even the biggest thing, just one of the things.
Okay.
So potentially controversial opinion. I don't find the concept of Twilight horrible. I actually think, and I have always felt this way since I first heard about it. It was like sparkling vampires, maybe. Like, but at this point,
sparkling hot people.
See, at this point, I had already known that there are a lot of different kinds of vampires. So I was like, hey, anybody want to put a twist on it? I was like, sure. Her reasoning for having them sparkling.
What was
yeah, but anyway.
I didn't watch the movies or read the books.
Because
all I know
their
about
skin
Twilight is from
is
people making fun of Twilight.
Because their skin is like diamond and it's hard, therefore it sparkles in the sun. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever floats your tiny boat. But anyway, I just think the execution is absolutely horribly done, and I don't like Twilight. But the Edward being able to impregnate Bella really bothers people, and it always introduces the discussion of whether or not vampires should be able to reproduce. Now, again, before I did any of my research over the weekend, my position was that male vampires can reproduce, female vampires cannot. And my reasoning was that there was like a case when I was a teenager where a woman was being sued by a man's family because she stole his sperm post-mortem and impregnated herself with his child. And I'm like, Well, I mean, if dead dude can, magic undead dude should be able to, right? But like female corpses, they don't have periods after they die, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure it stops working at that point. And just the whole idea, it's an undead creature, it giving life. That was a thing that I didn't like. And there was a lot of media that came out that kind of supported that. Von Helsing, Dracula and his brides were trying to have babies, but they kept being born stillborn. I should have asked chat what y'all's stance was on this. I'm sorry, chat. What's your stance on this? As
well,
I
chat
continue.
types, can I say my stance?
Yes.
Okay.
You and Jess can. I would like to know Jess's.
So I'm pretty sure, biology-wise, that males continuously produce like sperm and semen and stuff. So it's like they're not born with the same amount. So like
Correct.
there would be a limited amount of times that a male vampire can, until he no longer can have children because he's dead, so he can produce more. Yeah, so that's my counter to male vampires can have children. Maybe like a few, but after that, no more. I don't know anything about ladies, or I don't know about lady vampires. It's kind of weird that these dead people are having children. Are vampires always dead?
Hold on. I was going to bring that up there. Crystal says Twilight and Angel both did the vampires can have babies. And I mean, it's not a bad concept. People just get grumpy of the idea because vampires are supposed to be dead and dead can't have babies. Like I said, that was my stance on the undead one. And CB sounds like she was of the same thinking. Were you, Jess?
Most modern day vampires, I would argue, are not dead. Technically, most modern day vampires, if we're looking at like Twilight or
Twilight classifies them as undead creatures, though, in the world lore, and I don't like doing that because, like we were talking about earlier, there are demonic vampires, and there are fiction and media that classify vampires as demons and vampires as fae. And I mean, I think if they're fae or demons, they should be able to reproduce because they're not undead, and that is the basis of the argument for them not reproducing.
So when a vampire bites someone to turn them, they automatically die when they turn?
The thing is, like, they have to drink. Most cases, you have to drink their blood. They have. It's like a changing of blood happens.
A transfusion.
Most of the time.
Now,
so, I don't know necessarily that they're dead.
So now here's the thing. Here's the thing that kind of rips it out from under the carpet real quick. Well, in modern media, there is a term, dampier, especially in anime and video games and comics. It is known as half vampire or the daywalkers. And these are generally characters who are half vampire, half human for whatever reason. So it's like there's already a collectively cultural thing. When I just started doing my research, I realized it's an Albanian myth. It's an Albanian thing. And a Moroi is the Romanian version. They are children of usually male vampires. A female vampire having a Moroi or a Dampier is exceptionally rare. And in both Romanian and Albanian cultures, vampires are undead. Well, at least these ones. Wait, let me double check the Baratu.
Wiener dogs. Shut up.
Okay, and then a Moroi may be considered a living vampire. But, like, part of the thing with the way a Dampier is born in the mythology, or in the original lore, is that a dead man misses his wife or his lover or the pretty virgins down the street so much that they come back from the grave to have sex with them, and then they impregnate them.
Once again,
so he was so horny he
do not have sex with your dead lover. This is the thing. Like, we as a culture have just accepted that men are so gross that we have believed that they will come back from the dead just to have sex with us.
It's been around for centuries. This is a thing. Now, in the case of a Moroi, they're usually believed to be the child of Nosferatu specifically, which a Nosferatu, in order to be a Nosferatu, if you're the illegitimate spring of two illegitimate people, an unfortunate spirit of one killed by a vampire, or when a vampire tricks a newly engaged couple as an incubus or succubus, which makes Nosferatu and incubi and succubi really kind of weirdly interwoven.
So when
they're
a
cousin
newlywed
sisters.
couple has a threesome with someone else, or when
No, basically the
person-
Nosferatu shapeshifts into your boyfriend, and
that
then
was my
yeah.
next question.
shady shiz.
But
But
it's funnier if it's a threesome one though.
now the Moroi in Vampire, did you say it was Academy?
Yes.
Sounds more like a Dampier. Because a Dampier was half human and half vampire, they were believed to have the strengths of both and the weaknesses of neither. So they could do sorcery and magic, and they could see invisible vampires. That was the other thing. A lot of cultures believe vampires were invisible. In part
It's a weaker thing,
because they
right?
were ghosts.
Vampire
Weird.
Academy also has Dampiers, but they are the children of Moroi and humans.
Oh,
Or
so they take it one
Moroi
step
and other
further.
Dampiers.
Interesting. Or can they walk in the daylight? Because that's the biggest difference between
Yes.
a Dampier and a Moroi. Is Dampiers are daywalkers.
Dampiers sound OP.
They're amazing. They often become vampire hunters and then just like generationally hunt vampires.
Isn't there a guy named Blade that does that?
Yes, I was about to get to that in the comments. Now,
I know things.
one of the rare fictional
know things.
exceptions to this is Blade, who's a half vampire, because his pregnant mother was attacked by a vampire, and her blood, but like she fended off the vampire or somebody did. Either way, her blood and the vampire's blood mixed, and she started turning, and she was turning into a vampire as C-sectioning Blade out of her. And because babies share their mother's blood for a time, he became a Dampier.
Okay.
So I'm sure a lot of people probably thought I would be anti-vampires having babies, but my thing is largely actually just depending on how you explain it.
Like,
That's
yes.
it. And
I
I'm
agree with that. If you can
zombies.
BS your way into letting me believe it, then sure.
Zombies having babies to me is weird.
No.
They're
No.
all dead.
I don't
Little
like
different.
zombies.
Not
They're-
all forms of vampires
The
are
zombies,
dead.
no. I
exactly.
had zombies nightmares last night. I don't like zombies. Don't let small children watch The Walking Dead.
TV, what is your aversion to vampires having babies? Like, what is the specific thing that you don't?
I
That
mean,
doesn't
like,
talk.
if they're dead and they're and like the author, creator, whatever, explained it like their heart doesn't beat, they don't breathe, they're not allowed to do other bodily functions. That's my stance. But if they do have a heartbeat, or even if they don't have a heartbeat, but they're like breathing or something,
For me, it's
or
blood
they can
flow.
like make it seem like they're breathing, like they can choose to breathe, but they don't have to. Then sure, they can do other bodily functions. But if they can't heartbeat or breathe, they can't do.
I
Would
just
you
need blood
like
flow.
some science? So
Later.
this was the talking point that I gave to Sam, the only one that I actually gave in L.J. Smith's Night World series, which she also wrote the Vampire Diaries, but I haven't read those, so I can't tell you if it's a similar cross thread. But in the Night World series specifically, vampires drink blood because they don't breathe, and your blood how oxygen travels through your body. Your blood meets with oxygen in your lungs and it travels through your body, and that's how your body can do what it does.
Yeah.
So vampires have to drink blood because they need the oxygenated blood. They have to take your blood to oxygenate their own blood so that they can get their circulatory system working.
Okay.
So theoretically, they would have other bodily functions in that case.
If they have a constant transfusion of human blood, then they can go through pregnancy or whatever and have a child. Or, right before they have sex, if they have, human blood, then they can have working party parts and impregnate someone.
In a similar vein to that, I do not remember what the series was. There was a series that the reason that vampires drank blood and preferred fresh blood was because they're undead, so they can no longer do certain things, including producing their own blood cells. So that's why they drink the blood of the living, because that way it replaces the blood and it courses through them. So you can tell how long a vampire went without eating based on like the pallor of their skin. They start to get paler. They start to look like a corpse.
They start to desiccate.
Yeah, it's like that whole cartoony thing of when like people start to age and then they're young and beautiful again.
They pull a vampire. They could only have their blood type. Like they could only suck their blood type.
There's been fiction with that where vampires need their blood type.
Tiny one, like one of the blood types is the very small amount of like people have it, and it like has to do like the biology alignment chart. And just for years, they've been alive for like centuries, and they don't understand why they only suck a few people's blood and it works.
I'm an O negative.
Science happens.
That I'm an O negative, and that would suck so much because like other blood types would be compatible, like O positive blood types. They could just drink from O positive or O negative, and I'm like, I can't have that one. They're positive.
And then the humans figure out why the vampires like, oh, thanks humans, you figured out why I couldn't, drink your blood, so I owe you one. Like, I won't drink that guy's blood, but now I know what I can drink.
In the one where they could only drink their own blood type, their blood type smelled sweet to them, and other blood types that were incompatible smelled foul. So they're like blood.
If that has anything to do with negative Rh factors in blood, because technically
protein
science has not been able to figure out where negative Rh factors come from. Like there's no reason for people to have negative blood.
When I looked into it earlier this year, it's because negative blood types lack the Rh protein and that our immune systems attack it, which is why we can't accept positive blood types.
Yeah. They said
I don't know how true that is. That was just when I was Googling it because I was like,
powerhouse of the cell.
I was like, why the fuck can I not take positive blood? And it was like protein, and I was like, the fuck is the protein?
I know that I did some research on it before about like negative Rh factors in blood and the fact that they like the theory. This could go to your alien.
All theories.
It could go to your alien let's talk, but the theory is that the negative Rh factor is what comes from the ancient aliens. But maybe it's just vampires. I don't know.
Outing me as an ancient immortal one of unknown and mysterious origin. The rude. So I'm glad that you brought this up because this is in my talking points, and this is one of my favorite authors that writes vampires. So in Amelia Atwater Rhodes, the first book I ever read that had a vampire have a baby, you go through the book and the protagonist is like, she's a human with kind of weird powers and weird things, and she's like psychically connected to this dude that she doesn't know and has no idea why she can see his memories and shit. Well, big spoiler, but by the end of it you find out that like her mother had been a woman who was married, and like her husband was killed so that this ancient vampire dude could have her and turn her against her will. And then she lived so many centuries getting away from him and just living her vampire life. And at some point she figured out that she had been pregnant when she was turned. She was like in her first or second trimester. So she hadn't been showing, and that's why she didn't know. And the baby had been preserved through the vampire magic because the vampire that turned her was so ancient and powerful. So she and a witch got together to turn her human again. Like the witch sacrificed her life to give the baby a chance at life. And the woman was like, oh, well, now it's going to be great and happy and everything because I still have the love of my life's daughter. But when the baby was born, she had taken on genetic features of the ancient immortal because it was his blood and his magic that had sustained her for centuries. So she was his daughter now. And her mom just could not deal with that. So she was like, I'm putting you up for adoption and going away. And I'm like, I mean, fair. But so that was really interesting because then she, as a human, had all of this dormant vampiric power that she just didn't know how to use. And I don't remember at the end of the book, I think at the end of the book she turns into a vampire and she basically gets boosted to like a super vampire power because of her vamp dad.
Mm.
And her vamp dad like knew that she was accessing his memories and everything, but he just didn't care. He was like, nah, this is my child now.
Whatever.
Killed your father, so now you're my child.
But yeah, when I read that book, I was all like, can vampires have babies? Like, it's an interesting way to get around it.
I'm okay
Also-
with that go around. I
So-
think it's very clever.
To speak to earlier when everyone was talking about collecting sperm and not after post-mortem,
Mm-hmm.
from what we know, science so far been able to prove that sperm can be harvested up to 36 hours posthumously, and eggs are still good 36 to 72 hours posthumously. So if a female vampire were to harvest her eggs and have a surrogate, I'd be down. But again, it
Or-
also depends on if she's demonic or undead, because I
Mhm.
just
Because, like, does it,
I'm-
with the story you just told, like, does it freeze upon death? Like, your body, you stop aging. Do
well,
you
the
keep
fetus
growing-
stopped
like, do you
aging.
get to
She was
keep
an
growing
egg,
hair and
so
stuff?
it's like
Like, you
corpses
get long
do. Corpses still grow hair and nails for a while after you die.
But that's just like your skin tightening it coming out slightly. That's not actually your hair growing. There's no more like keratin.
Well, then it just depends, because like you a vamp. How you explaining your vampire magic?
Got a name
I-
forensics class.
I just don't think that I don't think that a vampire body can. For my personal thing, with everything I know about vampires, I don't think that an undead vampire body should be able to host a baby to term, because, like in Van Helsing explains, they are creatures of death and
got
they
the bad
cannot bring forth life. But I think if they like took their eggs and put them in a living body, yeah, sure.
Hopefully
And
with
if they're
their
demonic, I mean, they're demons. They're blood-sucking demons. Do
They
whatever
are.
you want, demon boo.
To add
What
to
happens if you're a vampire who bites their nails?
Hold on.
You're just screwed. Short nails. Don't cut
Okay,
your own
just-
bangs if you're a vampire. Don't
Okay,
to add
don't
to
worry,
too
Stephen's
much.
forensic class,
Yes.
the whole CB's absolutely correct. It is like a myth that your nail and your hairs continue
Oh, okay.
your nail and your hairs continue to grow, and that is actually where some of the vampire myths originate from, because they would dig up
Yes, I saw that.
corpses and their hair would be longer and their nails would be longer, and they were assuming that the person was continuing to like wake up at night in their death
Yeah.
and
If
be
you
doing
were-
stuff around, and all of their parts were still growing, but actually it's just because they
Also-
were desiccating.
Also, if your body was swelling, they would assume that you had been like sneaking out
Eating.
to nom the locals, not just swelling and bloating,
No,
because that's
called
what corpses do.
decomposition.
Yes,
So people
but
didn't
you
know
have
that
to
back
do-
then.
Yeah,
you have
no,
to
just like
decompose way. They think you
everyone
should
in like older
decompose.
times, like walking around with their pitchforks. God, it's a vampire.
They
No.
literally exhumed people 3 years after they were buried to make sure they were decomposing on time. And if you weren't, you got nailed down or burned.
You're not gonna care. You're dead because you're not a vampire.
I am an ancient immortal of mysterious and unknown origin. Don't tell me if I care or
Don't
not.
get buried, Sam. If you're an immortal, you should know better than to get buried. For 3
These
years.
vampires came out of their graves every night to party and suffocate
What's with
people.
the coffin
alright?
thing with vampires? Like, why do they sleep in coffins? If I was a vampire, if I was immortal, I wouldn't
Well,
like
that-
the sight of a coffin other than being ironic.
It's your grave. You're carrying your grave with you. You're carrying your grave
That's a
with
lot of
you.
luggage for sentimental value.
No, not sentimental. Like literally, the original European myths were that vampires were reanimated corpses that came out of their graves during the night and went back in during the day. So the coffin came from, I guess one vampire got smart and was like,
I'm
these
making
bitches
to a
know where I
backpack.
live. And so just moved house.
What if a vampire is like, that's way too big to lug around? So they like cut it in half, they burn half of it or whatever, and they like make it into like a little like Demon Slayer Nezuko box and just sit in it like a cat during the
There's
day.
also
and return. It's much
there's
less
also a
dignified
thing
than the whole like
that they can't leave the country of their like birth unless they take some of the dirt with them. So one of the
why is magic
myths-
based on politics? What if
it's
the
not,
country
it's your
no longer-
homeland.
What
It's
happens
not
if the
about-
country stops existing or like loses a war? Do you have to like pick up your coffin and like run?
She's not wrong.
To
Look, the earth that you were born in, like your hometown, is very important, CB. Okay, take the dirt with you. Just put it.
I don't think I've ever been to where I was born, other than when I was born.
Well, then I guess we know you're not a vampire.
Or I'm an upgraded version of a vampire.
So that actually kind of the Xijing, the Chinese hopping vampires. So the reason those are a thing is because in ancient China, it was super important to them culturally to be buried in their hometowns. Like if you died away from your hometown and your family just couldn't afford a better way to get your body back, they hired a sorcerer to go put a spell thing on your forehead, and then the sorcerer would basically babysit your body and you hopped back to your hometown. But if the paper were removed, for example, your family decided not to pay the sorcerer, so the sorcerer ripped it off your head because they will fuck you too. If the paper is removed, the Xijing gains conscious and goes on a murder spree to suck the life essence out of people.
What if it's never put there in the first place?
Then it's just a dead body.
No. So you could like ask your family because you want to come back and be. Are they like, other than murdering a bunch of people? Are they conscious?
Yeah, they have a consciousness, but they're monstrous at this point. They're humanity, basically.
It only depends how much you value humanity. If someone really wants to live forever.
Yes, there are in fact lots of stories and myths of individuals valuing power and immortality over morals and humanity. It's like they're moral tales to not do that.
Oh, I call it inspiration.
I like the idea of if you keep blood in your body regularly, it functions. Yes, I've always loved that interpretation.
Party just constantly walking around doing like staying alive.
I have, but oh my god, it's been so long. I do not remember any of it.
I have not.
Being human, amazing. Listen, well, that's fun.
My cat's out.
I see chat is talking to chat, which is great.
Sam, you are echoing just a bit.
I think it's on CB Zine. Hold on, let me turn mine down just in case it's me.
I think it's just your microphone, yeah. Because you're the only one.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Was something wrong?
Okay. Oh, I turned my mic down. I heard an echo too, though, but I don't hear it anymore. Did I hear my own echo? That's unusual. Anyway, I feel it's more because of the actor, the way he played walking the fine line between... Oh, Angry Broody Boy and I... Wait, which actor? What did I miss? Oh, wait, the being human. Aha. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that, I don't remember much.
I never seen it.
But
I have no frame of reference.
Being Human was like originally I want to say it was a British sitcom, a ghost, a werewolf, and a vampire being just roomies in an apartment. CB, did you have any more questions? Because
This
we're
one's
like,
on the list, and it's not really relevant, but it is relevant. Would you rather be a vampire, a ghost, or a werewolf?
werewolf. Every time, anytime.
Vampire.
Or a
Absolutely.
dampier. A werewolf or a dampier.
A vampire, but it would have to be like a living vampire.
Looks at a boy.
I do have more questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've already talked about a lot of this.
I have a
That's fine.
question.
I have. Yes, go ahead.
What are you eating, CB?
Fudge.
Oh, okay.
Flesh, intestines.
Oh, here's one. I have fudge in my mouth. One second. What are the greatest misconceptions about vampires?
That they have to be bloodsuckers or undead, I think.
This is really good fudge, in case anyone's wondering.
Now I want brownies.
It's
I have fudge I can share with you if you
Oh,
want
6
to
Flags.
drive your Jess.
I don't like fudge.
No, that's fair.
more for me.
More for CB. I'm trying to think if there's like a big like vampire misconception. I think the biggest misconception is that like modern day vampires are the vampire, which it's definitely not.
What do you mean by the vampire?
Like most people don't realize that there are other historical versions of a vampire besides just like what we see modern day wise.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah,
there's the really,
definitely like that.
monstery ones.
It's kind of like that.
like
It's like that whole thing where people think that Tolkien invented elves when that's not factually true. And dwarves, which is not true. It was a part of folklore. Was he the first person to like make it a big thing in fiction writing? Absolutely.
popularize it, yeah.
Create it. So similar would be like Anne Rice's vampires. Did she create a romanticized vampire? No.
No.
Did she make it popular? Absolutely.
So that was like the reason I wanted to do the Let's Talk in the first place. I'm very glad you summarized it so well, so eloquently.
See, but your cat wants to escape.
So the thing with that they have to be hot or that they have to be evil. I agree that these are. I agree. The first one is a misconception because there are a lot of misconceptions take to the modern vampire, as just saying of the over romanticized one, that they have to be hot or sexy because a lot of the or the most cultural that people will get with vampires is Romanian or Eastern Europe vampires, in which they're described as alluring. But one of the things I noticed is that they're not often described as beautiful or attractive in European mythos. So it's just like there's a monstrous beauty to it. Now, as far as the misconception that they have to be evil, I actually disagree that that's a misconception because one of the biggest complaints vampires aren't evil monsters anymore, that they are just
like
the
good guys.
romanticized heroes. So I don't think people think they have to be evil. I just think that a lot of people want monsters in. Which can...
I lost my cat, but I found her. She was under the bed. She's hiding.
Well, that's good.
Ready to suck my blood like a vampire.
I mean, to be fair, like we do live in a world where all of us that I know of that have watched Vampire Diaries are totally okay with Klaus. Like we're down for some Klaus, and yet he's like super evil.
But here's the thing. At least the reason I love Klaus is because he's so monstrous. He represents to me, he represents one of my talking points, which is vampire, monster, or man. Because that is a thing. Like a lot of monstrous vampires, there's a running trend that they are souls that they are people who come back after being slated. That they're humans seeking justice or revenge or everything, and they're just going about it in a really bad way because they're eating people, except those ones that do your dishes. They're Those ones got the
I
right
want a pet
idea.
vampire.
But like, yeah, so like with Klaus, that's almost exactly what he is, what he represents, is an attempt to get justice and to right everything that was done wrong for him in all the wrong ways.
He is very much both man and monster, because he has the ability to love and he has the ability to care for people, but he also has that switch that flips and he's just a fucking psychopath, and I love him for that.
And I feel like Damon is another one that represents that really well, because his entire purpose for doing what he does is to get back at Stefan for forcing him into a vampire, which fits really well with the traditional vampires came back from the grave because somebody didn't bury them right.
Weren't they
or
brothers?
because they
Weren't
were
they brothers?
So
I don't know the
they're
plot
brothers.
of Vampire Diaries. I watched a singular episode and got creeped out by the guy.
So in
stealing the girl's diary or watching
in
her.
Vampire
Something was
Diaries, in Vampire Diaries, Stefan was he turned into a vampire and decided he couldn't live without his brother, so forced his brother into being a vampire, and his brother did not take to this too well.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
He was like, "Look here, you codependent asshat. I'm gonna make your life a living hell now." And I'm like, yes, he's a very good vampire. So I really love Damon and Klaus because, like I said, to me they embody the spirit of what a European vampire is. Now,
both evil and attractive, and also loving, but evil.
Yes.
I think I might be a vampire.
Finally, we found a reason for her to join the sus party.
I think I might be a vampire.
Hold on, I have to do a thing.
I think I'm clear. I don't think I'm a vampire. I got a nice tan this summer. I didn't get burned once. I spent 4 days, full days at amusement parks, and I didn't get burned, which is really surprising.
I mean, good for you, dude.
I was playing the camp counselor thing, so I'd make sure all the children were sunscreened, which meant I was sunscreened very often. Because when I have to think about someone else's, well-being, then I have to take care of myself too.
Yes, I apologize ahead of time. I don't remember the adjectives you used, so these are the ones I'm giving you.
I mean, yeah.
Loving. It was attractive, scary, and loving.
She's not wrong.
Our reasons for being vampire.
I mean,
sus bastard.
Technically,
monster.
I am also a bastard, but my parents were married by the time I was born.
You would get a pass then, because it's only children born out of wedlock, not conceived out of wedlock.
I thought it was conceived out of wedlock.
No, it's born out of wedlock. As long as they put a ring on it before you're born, you're saved from bastard status.
I think that's because back in the olden days, they didn't actually know how long it took to know you were pregnant and to know when you were conceived. So it was
maybe,
especially if you were poor, because a lot of poor people were malnourished.
Because he's a bastard.
Well, see, it makes you sus.
That's my qualification to be a level 2 of Crisis Immortal Deity of Unknown Origin.
All right, I don't think they need to be vampires, but they should be predatory. Like, I wouldn't expect a shark to not act like a shark.
That's fair.
I think
also,
I agree with that for
the
demonic
vampires. Vampires who suck on blood packets like they're juice boxes and are just like, I don't want to hurt people.
You mean Caroline? Oh my god. Okay, so I love Caroline too because I'm sorry, Caroline from Vampire Diaries is a vampire who she was a human who had a lot of like insecurities and negative feelings about herself and stuff, and she was neurotic and like controlling and all of that. And in Vampire Diaries, when you become a vampire, your personality is heightened, just like all of your other traits, your strength, and which I actually
it's like the super soldier serum.
Yeah, I thought that was rather unique because not a lot of things heighten your personality too. So I like that it heightened their personality because it heightens their emotions and everything. Well, Caroline uses that to her advantage and becomes one of the best characters in the show, in my opinion. And I'm like, damn. And so, like, whereas
So just like hella insecure or something?
oh yeah, she was so insecure, like super insecure. But as a vampire, not really. She's confident because she's like, I'm a motherfucking vampire now, so
valid.
It was like
whatever.
she had very overactive personality to begin with, like her insecurities, her need to control everything, her neuroticism, like they were all very high. So it's like when she became a vampire, everything else came up and leveled with it. Like this stuff didn't get any higher, but everything else came up and leveled to it, and she just like evened out.
Yes. And so she I think represents the other half of like the modern vampire perspective that came in with the Anne Rice and everybody who wrote after her, where they're trying to more humanize. It's like, what if you're turned into a monster against your will, which a lot of vampires were. So, and that's Caroline, and Caroline tries her best to live a good life as a vampire. So
like, why
while there's a lot in vampire,
turn into a vampire.
So I want to say, while there's a lot in Vampire Diaries, I will not justify. I really do love very specific aspects of the show and very specific characters and their character arcs.
I still have a season to watch.
I'm not going to watch it. I don't like the vampire's relationship with teenagers, which I think is how it starts out.
Oh, it's how it starts out. Technically how it ends. Technically. But if you're writing a non-human character, I think there should be something on the inhuman mindset. Yes. A little bit. Depends on the inhuman character.
Yeah.
And how they grew up. Or, well, I mean, vampires didn't grow up, but, you know, well, a vampire could. But yes. Yeah, I agree.
If you're
True, Jess. So, well, oh, yeah, sometimes women experience phantom pregnancy. That's the thing. Like, where your body literally pretends to grow a baby. Caroline's character, this is my life now. Guess I'm gonna rock it. Yeah. Which I'm a big fan of that vampire trophy. Yeah, I'm a vampire and I'm gonna live my best vampire life.
I think that's what happens to Damon also, just in a whole different way.
in a less so positive light.
A little less positive, but definitely living his vampire life, for sure.
So much. So, not all vampire myths were negative. There is this one where it's an Aztec one, and I'm trying to... Aztec was in South America? I say so questioningly. So, yeah, they were females who died in childbirth, which were equated to when male warriors died on the battlefield, because the Aztecs perceived childbirth with the same honor and everything as a battlefield. Like, the way they explain childbirth is the mother soul goes into the underworld, does this journey, comes back up victorious with a baby soul, and boom, you have a baby. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take it.
I'm okay with that.
Sounds amazing. So, so if a woman dies in childbirth, then they become, I'm not going to attempt to say this word. I'm just going to copy, paste, and post it. And like, they were actually...
Teto.
Yes. Maybe. I don't know. I assume there is a Spanish.
Are you saying that one curse from Halloween Town? And I know.
Teo.
Oh my gosh, Nabby, go away. So, but they actually, them and male warriors who died on the battlefield were in charge of moving the sun across the sky during the day, and sometimes they were even said to move it through the underworld at night, and it was perceived as a really big honor, and nobody else was allowed to do it. It was just them.
Okay.
But the reason that they are considered vampires is because 5 days a year in the Aztec calendar, they would come to Earth. And when they came to Earth, they would come to Earth as demons and num-nums people. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it said they came to Earth
Why'd
to
they
steal
eat
children,
people?
cause madness and seizures, and induce men into adultery, as well as eat people.
That sounds like they're shifting the fucking men.
Always, CV. There's always a little bit of that. A lot of
I was
the
like,
Western,
okay, whatever they're doing to children,
Let me tell you.
seizures, evil,
a
making
lot
men
of the
commit adultery.
a lot of the Western hemisphere, they're like, you know what's a real good vampire? A pretty lady in the middle of nowhere, luring men away to smecks and then num-nums. Yep, that's a thing. Or just
Maybe that is made by like women to
That
make
does
sure their
sound like
husbands
something
don't
I
cheat
would
on them.
do.
But if you shouldn't be married to someone that you have that concern about, that a random women will lure them into the forest and then
to slightly balance the scales a bit, because although this is more common in spread throughout many cultures, there is also a trend of half vampire babies being born because vampires disguised themselves as women's husbands and had sex with them.
So they pull a Zeus.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, is this to explain away cheating, or is this to explain away birth defects? Because a Nosferatu or a Dampier is half vampire, and you're only sus if you're born with certain things. So.
Well, I think that would probably be because historically, anyone born abnormal was seen as being demonic, and typically the mothers were considered. The mothers were considered to have like
that's
consummated with Satan. It's not the word I want to use, but it's a what is the word I want to use?
You know,
consorted with Satan.
So as we talk, I want to rephrase it. It's not to balance to the scales because women are still being held to blame.
Yeah.
I started out with this, so it explained women cheating, and then I was like, wait a minute. No, there was more to it.
It's less of that.
It's like anytime a child is born with a birth defect, it's always like the mom's fault. And I say it's because she basically had sex with a demon, whether it's actual Satan himself or a demon of their religious variety.
But at least in a lot of cultures, they found a way to like take the blame away. Well, she didn't know she was sleeping with Satan. He looked like her man.
I feel like all the men were like, she slept with Satan! And all the women were like, shit, we gotta save our bro. Okay, here's the deal. So, vampires.
Oh, because some women were definitely still ostracized and stoned for having slept with Satan. Whether they knew it or not. But...
You mean like the lady from the Scarlet Letter?
I read that book. I had to. I annotated the shit out of it.
Stevie's the Captain America. I understood that reference.
I did. I wrote a really good essay on it too. All about the bad guy, making fun of him.
I never finished writing vampires, and I'm afraid to dive back in because of all the convoluted story it gets. I lost track of who's alive and who's dead and who's killed. And... watching Vampire Diaries. I was like, you can just make notes on which of your characters died. I'm like, and then I realized what you meant. I shouldn't have to make a chart to watch the show. It doesn't matter. Nobody dies until the finale.
My father is here. We classified what makes us vampires. Sam's a bastard, I'm a lefty, and Jess is attractive, monster, and vengeful.
Lefties?
We're sus.
Yeah.
That barely rates you a zombie.
No. Vampires are lefties. Lefties are sus. And that can be considered
lefties might be vampires. But all vampires are lefties.
Rectangles and squares?
Mm-hmm.
Also,
yes.
I was thinking that when they said that.
I thought it was coming up to use Count Chocula.
What?
They understand it. Count Chocula.
Yeah, the vampire guy. I was getting fudge earlier. Just a little bit left.
I'm not real.
Do you have any vampire questions? We went through all of mine.
Oh.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Chat, this is
So you
CB's
said there's
dad.
no vampires.
Oh, we forgot it. This is my dad, not just some random bearded man that barged into my room.
and, now
That's choosing.
random Beardo joining the stream.
Random weirdos. If there are no vampires in Italy,
Yeah, camera's up there.
I know, but then this looks like we're having a conversation.
I don't know anything about vampires.
If there's why does garlic work?
Garlic was a preserving seasoning, and because vampires were largely considered undead, then it was it's like the same reason salt works.
Oh.
Salt works. I thought it was.
You should know that from
If you put
Supernatural.
salt on a threshold, you hold out.
I didn't
all
understand
undead.
why. I was like, ah, yeah, salt's magical.
Oh, because it's a holy seasonings that were preservative were considered holy or magical or mystical.
Also, it's
They also
white, which is a
expensive in the
holy
olden days,
color.
right?
Garlic
What
is
about-
mildly gray.
I was
Does
talking salt.
Does that mean sugar and honey are also bane to vampires?
Are they preservatives?
We have sugar cured hams.
Pickle juice. Is pickle juice a little vampire?
Next time you
feel
see
like-
a vampire, try it out.
Like,
I feel like pickle juice would superpower them because it's a like
ha! Splash. Like, what the fuck?
Pickle juice works by breaking-
Gherkins don't work.
but pickle juice is just vinegar, and vinegar works because it decomposes and preserves, which is just like vampirism.
So it's like acid to vampires.
Vinegar is how we make vampires. I solved
It's
it.
how we make vampires?
We break down the connective tissue.
Oh,
It's like barbecue,
He's a science teacher. We can ask them reproductive questions. Vampires,
right?
undead vampires,
Okay.
reproduction.
Why-
Does it work out?
How does it work out?
Yeah, well, we were having a debate on it earlier.
Well, that's why they do the thing they do, because the regular reproductive organs don't work anymore.
That's why they bite people.
It's like adoption.
That's actually a really good point.
It's more like kidnapping.
Sorry for all the adoptees on the stream. I apologize.
That's another thing. A lefty, a bastard, or adopted, then you're a vampire.
I won't get on my
Wait,
friends.
say that again?
No.
I don't know what that is. What?
You don't know about that?
No.
Oh, if you're adopted, you get one free kill, because then you can claim that it was your terrible childhood, and you get one free kill.
I thought that was if you're a woman.
Well,
you can
that's
say
the-
one free kill.
Well, if you're
You
an
know,
adopted woman-
orphans are actually not sus from what I found. If your
Oh.
parents died, you're good. It's
Do
just
people
if you're
feel
born out
so
of
bad,
wedlock.
like, we can't do that one. But everyone else, they're vampires. But not-
Yeah, well, it's because vampires like are considered demonic or wrong or other, and any myth connected to children being vampires is usually children that died come back as a kind of vampire.
It's all
vengeful
related to
spirit.
Children, like women dying in childbirth become vampires. All the children become vampires.
There's like a lot of fear for a lot of cultures of women who die in childbirth because they're like, oh, they're going to come back for the baby. And that means they're going to eat everybody else's baby. That's like a heavily reoccurring thing globally.
That's kind of weird.
I hadn't heard that.
I hadn't heard
See,
that.
what I don't get is why they're like, oh, they're coming back for the baby. I'm like, oh, so they're going to kidnap and raise the baby? And they're like, they're going to eat it. And I'm like,
But why though?
why am I coming back to life to
So,
eat
like,
the baby?
Vampires don't need to sleep unless they're in their Nezuko coffins. Nezuko coffins.
Zinhag.
Thank you.
They're clean.
And like they can't go out in the sun. I guess that has nothing to do with child rearing, but it's basically saying,
You haven't raised children. It's like you never get to sleep and you don't get to go out in the sun sometimes.
yeah, perfect parenting.
Parents are sus now.
Parents are sus, I'll say.
You're a parent. You're a vampire. Okay.
My dad's doubled because he's a parent.
Or maybe they would make better parents because they don't have to sleep.
Mm.
So would you like to hear some like very
Oh, my.
specific, there's still Slovakian preventative methods to protect yourself from vampires? So you've got damp ears, you can hire the damp ear, or twins born on a Saturday.
What?
Twins born on a Saturday are believed to have the ability to see invisible vampires, and if they take oxen and they attach them to a plow and then build a furrow around a village, then they can it'll protect the village. But it has to be done by twins.
Okay, I feel like this is what happened to make that thing. One, a pair of twins really liked fucking with people. So they're like, ha, we see vampires. And they're like, why? Because we're twins born on a Saturday. Duh. And then another pair of twins were like, hey, we're twins born on a Saturday, and you heard from those other twins born on a Saturday that we can see vampires. So we can see vampires. So you need to give me an oxen. And I will return it definitely after I do a furrow around your village. Bye. And then they steal the ox.
And they go from town to town to town.
There were some towns that would actually go and find like orphan twins and bring them back and then just have them watch the town at night for vampires.
I mean, do they get like food and stuff? Because that seems like
yeah. Oh no, definitely. Like the twins.
I'll protect against the vampires.
Come on, these are the only people who can see the invisible vampires. Of course, you're gonna treat them well.
Help me fight the vampires. I need some garlic for my food. This needs seasoning. I mean, to help the vampire fighting.
Do you think
this question says, do you think Twilight would be better as a horror story about a girl being pursued by a vampire and can't escape, someone who falls into a bad relationship? See, yes.
I think those things would make Twilight a better story.
That makes
as a concept, I think Twilight is an amazing horror vampire story, especially the way that Edward acts, the way that Edward is portrayed. He's actually a really good monster vampire.
Super creepy.
It's just a terrible romance.
She likes Vampire Diaries, or she's watching it. They both watched it. They have some sus things about it. Like,
you think?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
80-year-old man who's really hot for the 15-year-old? No,
he's
that's
100.
Okay.
He's older than 80. He's 100 and hold on. It's like however old he died plus 100 because he's been a vampire for 100 years now. So he's like 118.
I think it was. I think he's older than that.
Hold on. I'm Googling Edward. Y'all making me Google Twilight things. I'm gonna cry now.
The other night I had to Google
the Matrix
when
knows
the
you like
first book came out. So,
what did you have to Google the other night?
When the first book came out.
Have you seen Twilight stuff since then? Like Amazon's like, do you want to buy this Edward Cullen plushie?
Ugh. No.
I don't know. I bet you that's a thing. I bet you there's an Edward Cullen body pillow.
Oh, for sure.
Of the sparkly scene. I haven't seen the movie.
You just saw clips on YouTube.
I've seen people making fun of it, yes.
Okay, when
cool.
does...
It'd be kind of nice to have in the summertime.
Twilight
Cool.
I'm gonna get all the weird ads for those web novels I don't want again. The one about the bathroom.
There's such a thing as an incognito tab, my friend.
Ah, yes.
I know, but I'm lazy.
Oh, did you guys talk about Japanese vampires?
Briefly. Do you know things about Japanese?
So
I knew they have them.
he's 104 because he was born in 1901 and Twilight takes place in 2005. So he's 104. So none of us were right.
I didn't say anything. I mean, I was right.
Yes.
The Japanese do not actually have any vampire myths. All of their vampire myths are borrowed from other cultures, with the exception of...
I have some vague memory of a flying vampire head, but that's probably...
That's South American. They have a lot of them. So many, like 6 different ones. Some of them are flying heads. Some of them are flying torsos. All of them have their entrails floating out.
They're just not, like... What about a Frankenstein vampire? So they took all the bunch of floating pieces, and someone just like
no. During the day they are either young pretty women or old ladies, and then at night they just send off parts of their body to go eat.
Oh.
It's really weird.
Is the Chihona a vampire?
College one was really cool.
Is the what a vampire?
The Chihona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to Burger King.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Actually, it's probably not the weirdest thing with Burger King employees.
Listen, I don't know. I grew up with a Mexican grandmother who used to scare us of this thing that would like search for babies.
The Verona?
Some traditions are the Verona, some are the Chihona.
Yeah.
Why Sharona?
I don't think she's a vampire because I don't think she eats them. And that's the big...
takes your children.
Yeah, she's similar, but she only steals them. She doesn't eat them, and she doesn't like shoot off her body parts.
She doesn't shoot off her body parts.
How would the torso feed?
How the what?
We discussed feet feeding earlier because like the
torso
chicken...
eats with a long tongue, or no, with a long tooth. It's got like a long tooth, I think. It's either a tooth or
remember that thing we talked about earlier? This thing?
The tentacle?
I thought that was in the mouth.
Oh,
your mouth is connected to your throat, which is connected to your torso, genius.
Okay, but the arms are also connected to the torso, and they go separately. So
but
why
here's
wouldn't
the
the head
thing:
go separately
she sends her head out to eat on its own. I don't really think anatomy matters anymore.
You're googling
the Noreona in Japan is a snake-like yokai with a woman's head that eats people, and that's like the closest they have to a comparable vampire. Other than that, they're all vampires in Japanese media are cultural borrowing from like trades and exchanging of myths and everything. They're one of the few cultures that actually didn't have their own thing where things nom nom your blood.
You're really bad at being on camera. It's like I'm gonna let them see half my face. It's like kids on Zoom in the classroom, and they're like,
"It's okay." Every
information on homeostasis.
It's okay, CB. Like every time I laugh or something, I just slowly vanish, and then I'm like, "Oh right, camera."
That's an action shot, Sam.
All right.
You're paying for your own college, right?
No.
Okay.
But I'm looking for the
you defend against the dogs.
All right, go have fun.
The other ones who like
what?
shot out.
You said I need a shower.
I said it quietly.
She was trying to be considerate.
At least when you walked up, I didn't go, "You stink." I could have done that.
I would have returned fire.
I don't sneak. I shout.
They can't tell. You reek. It's awful in here.
Look,
have a
my
dead
hair's
cat
not
here
even
somewhere?
greasy. Storm is under the bed.
Okay.
She's really fat.
I'm like only half paying attention because I'm trying to find the woman who like sends her head away. And I'm like, wait, what? And I hear dead cat, and I'm like, yes, there are vampire cats. Wait, what?
Wait, they're vampire cats. Can
Well,
I
there's
get a
like
moral cat? I don't
it's
care
a-
if I like, feed it some of my blood. If it doesn't die, I'm totally cool with it.
It's one of the witch vampires.
I
She can
think I won't
shapeshift
go
into
moral.
a cat.
No. Then you have to clean the kitty box of like really weird things. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Where
It's
did you
someone
go,
died.
woman who sends her
Her
head away? Where are
She would
you?
agree with it. Bye.
Maybe.
I was wrong. It's not the South America. It's Asia. There's
It's
she's,
Asia.
like
It's
everywhere
not
in
South
Asia.
America, it's Asia for the Japanese vampire that was stolen.
Makes more
Or
sense.
wait,
Right,
or
Korea.
the head that was flying. I don't remember.
The floating head is an Asian vampire, but it's not Japanese.
Tell him he can watch it on the playback.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
rewind us. We're good.
He is subscribed. Remember, he was your 200th subscriber. Because I ran downstairs and went, "Father, do this."
But yeah, it's the.
What?
Excuse me while I butcher this word. It's the
Vernacular.
Menenagala.
I understand y'all's references. I read that when I was very small, in like first grade. Our teacher read it to us because we didn't all know how to read.
I see bunny vampire. Are we talking about Buncula?
Bonicula.
I think I butchered that name too. Oh god, how many comments came in while I was looking for this thing? Yes. see,
Or like the
Crystal.
intestines there.
Delete. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not genuinely upset about it, and the reason that I don't do it is because it literally, no matter what I do, comes back. Like, no matter what I look up, I could be looking up lipstick for days, and just randomly, I'll be on YouTube, and it'll play the ad. She was in front of the alpha, and then she ran for the bathroom, and I'm like, why are we running for the bathroom? And it always pulls me in because I forget about it, and I'm like, what is this? Why are we running from the alpha? And then he's all like, something about basically he knows she's horny and she needs to take care of it now. And she's like, bitch, I do what I want. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I always get the ad about
I
the
get
guy,
those
the lady
all the
laying
time.
eggs, and she's like a human lady, and she's laying eggs, and I'm like,
I've only gotten that one once. I always get the bad werewolf one, and it always tricks me because I read alpha and beta fiction before the Omegaverse was a thing. So I'm sorry, vampires, you're gonna have to wait a moment. So in alpha and beta fiction, pre-Omegaverse, what it was just a bunch of like super masculine, dominant-ish men who became mushy teddy bears for their love interest. That's all it fucking was. And now it's all this toxic bullshit. And I'm like, why? But every time my brain hears alpha, I'm like, maybe this time it's not. No. Mm-mm.
But you might like Ice Planet Barbarians.
what?
DM that to me so I don't forget.
But like, no, the egg thing always, I feel betrayed because I'm like dragons, because and then it's
See?
this lady laying eggs. I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, put it in an egg carton carrier, and I'm like, what the fuck? Are they gonna eat it? She's giving birth. Why is she so pregnant when she's like dropping these little eggs? Nah, I hate ads.
Twilight as a horror story is in my story idea binder. I wanted to show how someone could fall into a bad situation without realizing and hopefully growing to escape from it. That'd be cool. Well, see, but here's the thing. The horror comes from him not being a vampire, but from being creepy, controlling stalker. That is what a lot of especially male monsters, that's what they're symbolic of in like old lore and myth. They're symbolic of creepy, controlling people in power above you.
Apparently, my dog ate my father's dinner. It had,
Oh,
it had beans, rice, and Tabasco sauce. So, luckily, taking the dog
So-
out is not my job.
No, I've never read Midnight Sun because I've never read Twilight. Everything I know about Twilight, I watched from the movies. So whenever I talk about Twilight, I am never talking about the books because I do not have any knowledge of the books. I only speak on the movies. And I refuse to read Midnight Sun because of the reason it was not originally published. Which, for those who don't know, Stephanie Meyer was working on Midnight Sun, and then a chapter or two got leaked, and she was like, I cannot anymore. I am so betrayed. I'm sorry, all of my fans who really wanted this novel, but nope, somebody leaked my chapters. I'm not doing it now. And I'm like, well, that's fucking mean and rude.
Yeah.
Like, your fans didn't do it. And so that I just felt it was a shit move. I also
was.
don't actually believe she could do justice to Edward, even though he's her character. I think she has too much of a romanticized view of Edward in her own head to write Edward as the monster man I wanted
Totally
to
wrong.
be.
But wasn't she like creepy to whatever?
Oh
the
yes,
actor
Robert
did?
Patterson hated working with her because she was real creepy to him. I feel like I'm thankful I never read Midnight Sun.
Thankful I never read Twilight. Apparently,
The
it's in, like,
torso vampire
Twilight
drags her
years
intestine.
ago. It was in like
Yes.
the little kids' elementary school like book fairs and stuff. And he's like, get that out of here. No, the children are not allowed to read that.
So both the torso and the head drag their intestines with them, and there's actually this specific, I cannot remember the name of the plant, but you can put that plant in your windows at night to keep these vampires away because they don't want the thorns to tear their intestines, which is fair. I too would not want that.
Put a cactus in every window.
I kind of prefer
They
them.
put a cat face or cat piss.
Cactus.
Oh,
A
cactus! I thought you were like, put cat piss in every window. I was like, what did you just read in my notes that I forgot about?
I wouldn't be surprised
Cactus.
at this point. At all.
Spiky desert tree.
Yeah, so Binocula is a children's book series about a vampire bunny.
Bunnicula.
Bunnicula.
Was Bunnicula actually a vampire? It was the dog just like really scared of bunnies.
I never read Bunnicula. It's one of those things where I just know about it because I know so much about vampires.
I
Like,
know
Before
the
I did.
cultural reference,
And
but I
it's like,
don't actually
This
know
bunny
anything.
is a vampire.
It is a
I don't remember if the bunny's actually a
King.
vampire. I mean, bunnies are cute, but also really creepy at the same time.
Jess, I forgot I sent you a like close-up picture of my makeup earlier with the like purposely blood-looking thing, and I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with her eyes?"
Them's
It's
your
me. It's my
eyes.
eyes. It's my makeup. It did a good job of what I wanted it to do.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh, Binocular was a real vampire. He drank vegetables, not blood. Okay, there we go.
Drained.
I should read it. I want to read it. I just don't have the thing to read it. Now, I should go look at my talking points because I have them.
Now we're running out of time. At least my time. I'm running out of my time. I might disappear, but you guys can keep talking about.
Well, I'll wrap it up at about 3 hours.
Mean
Don't
like
worry.
that? Disappear.
No,
No,
I mean,
she
like,
means
"Peace
sleep.
out, I gotta go to bed because I'm driving in the morning."
She will prove that she is not a real vampire by actually sleeping. The look on her face. Okay.
Trying to maintain
so-
a semi-okay sleep schedule.
Well,
I mean,
right
I have
now
to get for work in 8 hours.
they should brush their teeth and get ready for bed. They don't have school tomorrow, so if they want to watch a movie, they can watch a movie.
I would.
Well, then
pay
go
good
put them
money
to
see a
sleep.
bunny just like eating.
Hey, I hear women complaining that they
A
need to
bore.
sleep soon in my ear.
Haha, I'm a woman, not a child.
I'm a woman, not a child. I mean, I'm 34, so.
Well, if you don't want to
Who
let
told
them
me I
watch a
was
movie,
old?
then
I was
tell
a
them to
camp
put their
counselor
music
this
on.
summer. They're like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 18. They're like, you're old. And I'm like, bitch,
Technically,
I-
I'm old
I
enough to
can't-
be your mother.
I can't
you
even
turn
rent
the
a
AC
car.
Well,
Oh, yeah, you gotta be
be
25
like
to do that.
25 to rent a car.
Yeah.
I remember telling you last year or earlier this year, I was like, 25 is the actual final adult milestone according to what you can do.
My boss was 25 and
country.
she's always like, I'm so old. And I'm like, no.
Okay. Talk
Wait,
about
no.
Anne Rice and Toulouse. Vampire Diaries, True Blood. Did we hit? I think we have hit on all of my talking points.
Ooh, go us talking.
I have a list of seductive vampire types just because I was like, it's so small compared to the actual.
Would you like this sexy vampire, this sexy vampire, this sexy
These
vampire?
vampires,
Blah,
those
blah,
are
blah.
sexy. Bunnies have a digestive system of a carnivore, not herbivore, suggesting that they ate meat at some point.
That's awesome.
All right, then.
I have not.
My dad has, and I watched a few of the episodes of the TV show. He really likes that series.
Yeah, we have to be 25 to rent a car. And depending on how traumatized a hotel is from an anime convention, you also have to be 25 to rent a hotel room during anime convention weekends. Also, the reason my aunt went with me one year was just so that there was an adult's name. And my boss was like, oh, well, if you want to let your sister buy this NC-17 manga, your aunt has to approve it. And I'm like, I'm the adult guardian this weekend. My aunt is here in case the hotel has a fit. And that's it. What is it about? Is it about...
It's about a magic, like, I'm not going to do it justice, but it's like a magic detective guy in New York, and there's a butler and a skull. I don't know. It sounds interesting. My dad really likes it. I'm not qualified to talk about this.
So are there vampires? I'm just trying to figure
There's
out if
probably
it was
vampires, I'm guessing, because it's like a magic supernatural kind of thing.
Okay.
But he's neat and powerful and stuff.
So, would y'all like to know about some hyper-specific vampire things?
Yes.
Do I have a choice?
No.
Yeah, you can leave.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chicago. Not
I was
New York.
about to say that. You beat me to it.
Some city, whatever.
Hold on. I have to find...
Hi, do you want me to pick you
This
up?
is in my extended notes. I have so many extended notes.
I have a cat.
Here I go, chicken.
You have a cat? Oh, she froze.
CB is gone.
The cat attacked her. and she
Vampire,
froze.
werewolves, fae, ogres, demons. Harry Dresden is a wizard detective in Chicago. There's every supernatural you can think of. I don't know. I can think of a lot of supernatural things right now. Most of them vampires.
Come back, CB. Look how angry she looks.
I
You
know,
can't even see
right?
her eyebrows, and she looks real angry. Her mouth's all like,
Excuse me as I search the word specific in my Milo note.
Pacific? Like the ocean?
No, specific. Like so specific.
Oh, she left. She gone.
Oh, there is a vampire that has Strigoi. They have, in some beliefs, they have a very specific feeding habit, which is to bite their victims over the heart or between the eyes.
All right.
The look on your face.
That's a
Also-
weird place. Like, that's your whole face.
I know. CB, did you hear me?
No.
The Strigoi have a very specific feeding habit. In some stories, they either bite their victims above their heart or between their eyes. So, for as staple as drinking blood from the neck is in modern vampire beliefs, most vampires in mythology ate people other ways. Like, there's not actually many who went for the jugular.
I just want everyone to know that Matt failed. So, continue.
And an immortal who inhabits a skull that gathers knowledge from his mouth. There's a thingy I recently read about that, but like chucked out of my brain because it was a vampire and I already had too many things going on this weekend.
There's an extremely fat cat.
I'm looking for this very specific way that vampires came back from the dead to produce dampiers.
CB's assassins assassinated CB.
No. Someone with C-grade assassins tried to steal my thing and failed miserably. Cough, Matthew, cough.
I just like that because you and I are on the same side of the peanut butter wars, you don't send your assassins after me. I do appreciate that.
That is like, I have noticed that. The days that you two get together are
I
always
might go out
like,
again because Matt's assassins have given up attacking my Wi-Fi. So that happens. Matt didn't win.
yes,
He
obviously.
just found other ways that aren't nearly as effective as what I do. Allegedly do.
Like how quickly she was like, I mean, allegedly.
Allegedly. I mean, I'm so.
Allegedly.
Oh, so here's some more vampire prevention methods according to which region am I in? Slavic Europe. Break an egg and drive a nail through the floor beneath the bier of a recent dead person's house. The evening after a funeral, 2 to 3 elderly women would attend the ceremony and stick 5 hawthorn pegs or old knives into the grave. Or in the corpse chest. Oh, wait. One in the corpse chest, typos. One in the corpse chest and then one in each limb. Run backwards up a hill with a lit candle and a turtle to ward off a stalking vampire.
What the fuck's the turtle gonna do?
To ward off the vampire.
Obviously.
Surround the grave with a red woolen thread. Set it on fire. Wait until it's burnt up. If you hear a vampire outside, you can shout, "Come tomorrow and I will give you some salt," or "Go, pal, get some fish and come back."
I have a turtle theory.
Okay. Oh, go with the turtle theory. I'm very curious.
Okay. So vampires have to be invited into your home. The turtle's clothes are also its home. Maybe the turtle is like the one thing that is completely invincible from a vampire because you can't get into the shell because that's its home.
So
So,
you bash a
that's
vampire
like,
skull with
yes.
a turtle.
Vampires are afraid of turtles.
You also have to run uphill. Remember, you got to be running backwards uphill as you carry your little turtle's house.
And a candle.
Okay.
Or the real world effect of this is the stalker vampire is just way too freaked out by this random lady that he was stalking running up backwards up a hill with a turtle. He's like, never mind. I'm gonna choose a new victim. This one's weird.
Shit gets so damn specific when you look up vampire things. Like, oh my god, like the fart snail. Why the or shrimp? Sorry, not snail. Shrimp. It was fart shrimp. How could I forget it? I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed. Okay, so I found it.
I love they're weirded out by this chick running backwards up a hill with a lit candle and a turtle.
Right? Like,
And they're just like, maybe not that one.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go stalk some normal lady.
okay, now.
I don't do weird. Me, stalker, I have standards.
So in the same regions in which dampiers are a thing, one of the ways that vampires can be a thing is happens in very distinct stages of development. For the first 40 days are apparently the most decisive. It starts out as an invisible shadow, gradually gaining strength from the lifeblood of the living. Then it forms a typically invisible jelly-like boneless mass. It eventually builds into a human-like body nearly identical to the one that it had in life. This development allows the creature to leave its grave and begin life as a human. The vampire, usually male, can be sexually active, have children, either with his widow or his new wife, because, he dies, becomes a vampire, goes and gets himself a new wife, I guess.
It's till death do us part. You died. You're parted.
The kids could be vampires themselves, have the dampiers, basically. And people born on Saturdays can also be vampire hunters in this
When was I born?
instance.
Okay.
CD's like, was I born on a Saturday? I need to know.
Is it only people born on Saturdays or twins born on Saturdays? Because we've had both.
In this one, it's people. Sometimes
what
it's
is
only twins. Sometimes it's people. Because Saturday is the day that the dead rest. That's why.
But Saturday in
I was
June
born
is
on a
also the
fucking
day that
Monday.
we all rest. So is that more proof of, I'm bringing this back around, because it is a Jewish myth, is that more proof that Lilith was in fact the first vampire? Because she is a Jewish myth. And if Saturday is super important to vampires and Jewish people, Saturday is their day of worship, does that mean that Lilith was the first vampire?
Wouldn't she be the second because Lamashu would be the first?
I mean, sure.
Who's Lamashu?
The Lamashu is the older mythological figure that is said for Lilith to have been mixed with.
Listen, I just want it to be that, okay?
Okay,
Give me whatever you want it to be, but that's
Look,
what I want it to be.
I'm with you. Lilith can be the first vampire. She's the first demonic vampire. I'm with you.
Excellent.
And her son is Cain. I also like that theory better. We're picking and choosing over here.
I mean, not to kill the Lilith is the mother of Cain theory, but also some scholars believe that the reason the forbidden fruit was actually the mixing of party parts, as CB so politely put it earlier, and that Eve mixed with the devil and then went to go show Adam how cool it was. So then Cain was the son of the devil. And
I just discovered this really cool new thing.
But what if
right?
Cain can be Lilith and Lucifer's son?
I mean, could
just
be.
adopt him? We're just gonna do whatever we want now.
Make whatever mythology thing we want.
So, one of the things I want to talk about before we get to the 3-hour mark is that, as we have seen over the course of the 2.5 hours, we could go back and forth talking about modern vampire and the ancient beliefs and stuff, because there's a lot of basis for modern vampire things in ancient ones. Even modern vampire things that it's like, oh yeah, this is probably because Romanian vampires got like popular, but it's like, but that's a thing from vampires from Africa or from vampires from the South Americas or stuff. And it's just like, it's really fascinating. And I've always held to, when creating our own creatures, especially things that already exist, understanding where they come from so that we can decide what we want to do with them that still kind of works, or just like draw inspiration from it.
Your mic's down slightly. We heard you. I could hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I figured.
That's
but-
why I didn't stop you much earlier. Yes, I agree.
Agreed.
Look.
And I will look for more hyper-specific things because it amuses me how hyper-specific some of these things get.
It was pretty good. Just stay alive. How we do that.
Also, like, if a vampire looks like a woman, it's either a young, pretty woman or a really old,
Yeah, that's
wrinkly lady.
you
get nothing
only
else.
two options for women: being an old wise woman or a young sexy woman.
Vampire women are either Mother Gothel post-flower or Mother Gothel pre-flower.
It's a very good way to put it.
Flower gleaming.
Now I have Mother Knows Best stuck in my head. The chupacabra does technically fit under vampire.
True. Is it humanoid though? I mean, I guess no one's ever seen it, so how do we know? But
Wait, what are we defining as
You
vampire now?
The chicken.
Oh,
the
true.
lightning bird.
chicken, lightning bird,
The
all
baboon.
vampires.
Are we calling vampires? What are we defining as vampires right now?
Well, do you know what a chupacabra is?
Puss in Boots yelled in his movie, and everyone turned around and looked afraid.
A chupacabra is described as either a dog-like thing or more lizard-like. Like its
Okay.
appearance changes, but it drinks blood. It like drinks goat's blood or kids' blood or people blood or just like, yeah, that's its thing.
Should really try
think
some
we-
movies. They taste better than blood.
I think
Specifically,
the actual translation of chupacabra is
bloodsucker.
bloodsucker or goat sucker. I think.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's goat
I
sucker.
think it's goat sucker.
But
Maybe
like
they actually drink
they-
milk.
they drain all of the animal's bloods and sometimes the organs too, usually through either 3 holes in the shape of an upside down or of a downwards pointing triangle or through 1 or 2 holes. But like, yeah, a
Yeah, like-
chupacabra kind of fits the modern definition of a vampire better than some of the originating vampire myths.
They have one of the big straw teeth, just the one, and they just suck it like a juice box.
Why don't they have the 2? You just said they have the 2. Hi, Storm.
1, 2, or 3.
Variety.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
if it's 3, it's in this
like
shape.
Goldilocks, mother bear, baby
Trying to
bear.
suck my blood through biting my finger.
Also, there's a vampire snake that
That
whistles.
tracks. That would make sense.
And like
They already
when,
have the.
when it catches your eye, it paralyzes you. So when I saw that, I was like, cockatrice. But
It's Medusa.
basically, it's Medusa's hair. But it's a
It's
blood
Medusa.
sucking snake that whistles,
That
and
whistle.
you need a
Wait.
specific healer to kill it.
We
Yes,
always perceive snakes as having a lisp. So could you imagine like a snake trying to
I'm
whistle?
trying. That's the best I got.
I don't think that's a real thing.
It's straight. It whistles
Snakes
strangely.
can't talk.
Look, me over here, vampire snake, believable.
Right?
Whistling
Vampire
snake, no.
draws line at whistles.
Running uphill backwards with a turtle and a candle, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I
Snake
want
man
a
Makes
comedy
sense.
that takes itself completely seriously, but it's a vampire hunter that does all these stupid, ridiculous things to vanquish vampires.
I
Oh,
just
also
really want somebody to
some,
put that
like-
in a movie.
some history for everybody. In the, I think it was 18th century,
Okay.
there was a lot of vampire hunting in Europe Like, they were just digging up corpses and nailing them down and burning them and doing all these things. Coincidentally, in the New England states of the United States in the 18th century, there were also a lot of vampire hunts going on. But they never used the word vampire. But what they would do is they would dig up corpses and decapitate them and nail them to coffins and burn them. And it's like, I wonder why.
Vampire.
This sounds a little familiar.
Yeah. I have a friend from Salem. They're cool.
There's a vampire whose feet are on backwards. I just remembered that. I would say
That sounds like the hassle.
well,
It sounds helpful if you got to run uphill backwards, though.
Yeah.
No, because your knees are backwards.
Actually, even more helpful is in that culture, the earth is considered kind of sacred or semi-sacred, so the vampires don't like to touch it, so they just float.
So just carry around a pouch of dirt and be like, "Quack!"
They just say, fuck it.
Drink holy water when you have some old-fashioned dirt.
You need to start carrying around 2 water pistols, one with water, one with pickle juice. Tell me which one works better. Holy water,
not just normal
holy water, pickle juice.
That's so
Okay,
weird.
next time I meet a vampire, I'll ask. If
Sprocket.
I know a lot of people that are like pale, have dark hair, don't go out in the sun, don't really leave the room, and don't like pickles.
First of all, pale and dark hair is not actually associated with vampires. Only
yes,
red
it
hair
is.
I'm like, everything that you just listed was me.
You don't like pickles?
With the exception of pickles. I do like pickles.
Oh,
but
okay. That was my roommate. What was my roommate vampire?
did you invite them in?
I'm going back to college campus tomorrow. I don't think I'm dead.
I recommend getting a pet turtle.
Oh, okay. I have like the 2 vampire bites, like the vampire bite on the top back of my neck. It's like 2 moles that are like this far apart and are right on my neck. You get right here, and I check them my vampire bites. But I don't have like see.
I was trying to update something, but it wasn't letting me, so now I'm just gonna have to do it this way.
She's doing things.
Being productive.
Oh, I'm
I mean, that's fair.
not productive at all. I just changed sus qualifications.
Wait, what? I zoned out.
I said I just changed Jess's sus qualifications.
Wait, Crystal, why are you hiding from me? What did I do?
No. I think Crystal also fits that description, maybe.
Do you not like pickles?
Oh,
I like
there's also a vampire
I
dog.
didn't go to my friend's room and eat pickles.
So the vampire dog is an evil, black, hairy vampire dog who's an emissary to the devil, and he kind of reminds me of the Hound of Baskerville, but he's not.
Is he immortal?
His name is Dip, and he's from Spain.
I love him.
And I'm like, Dip and the Hound of Baskerville sound a whole lot alike, and this is very interesting because this is very specific. Also, a example of how lore and mythology and beliefs can evolve, especially under the influence of certain kinds of movements. Religious reformation is in the Canary Islands. The witches of Anaga were originally myths about witches who danced around bonfires and went and swam naked and all of this stuff, which can be connected to some cultural practices in the area. But as Eastern Europe's vampire stories came over to the Canary Islands, these myths merged with vampires, and it became the myths of the blood-sucking witches of Anaga who ate newborns in their sleep.
Oh.
Tastes like fish.
Jess's teen years to her adult years. She's just used to dance bonfires, swim naked, and then one day she wakes up and she's eating babies.
Puberty.
I'm like looking for more hyper
specific stuff.
Yeah, here's some more twins born on a Saturday.
What is it with
Oh,
Saturday?
wait. So vamps were believed to be invisible to most people, except a twin brother or sister born on a Saturday who wore their clothes inside out.
What? What if they had a reversible shirt?
I don't think that was the thing back
Then
then.
it'd always be considered inside out.
Would it though?
Yes.
But also, like I said, when I looked it up, it was the thing with Saturday is because Saturday was considered the day that the dead rested, so that's when the living gained power over them. Anything that like hails Sunday as a better day than Saturday to do things with the undead was because Roman Catholicism came to town.
Sunday's the day of homework. And dreading Monday. It's an evil day.
Pale, don't go outside, darkish hair, don't like pickles.
Damn.
That's my husband.
He doesn't like pickles. Why don't people like
Oh, he hates pickles.
That's good.
Speaking of various cultures' vampires, I will not talk about Native American vampire lore because Native Americans have asked that people, especially white people, not discuss Native American vampire lore because they don't have vampires in the sense that we think of vampires. And whenever people talk about, they have a belief that talking about their monsters summons their monsters, and this is actually a religion that they practice to this day. So I respect that. I know some tribes have said that they're okay with it, but I don't know enough about all of them to know which ones
Better
are okay
safe
with it
than
and which
sorry.
ones aren't. So I'm just not
Definitely
gonna
just
do it. So
Have you ever seen that one Goosebumps? Is it Goosebumps? The Don't Think About It?
yes.
Yeah.
No.
And then I think about the monster and I'm like, oh my God, did I just summon a monster?
Right? It's like, oh fuck. And that's another thing that's
Good
like
friend.
spread out globally. Globally, it's believed that belief brings things into stuff.
Hey,
That's
there
also
was a
why there's
supernatural episode on this.
there's a specific Slavic belief that I took notes on, but I haven't actually brought up on stream, and I'm not going to for that same reason because I know that is still an active belief as well.
It was the Ghostfacers episode.
What's
The
the-
belief in the monster
Facer.
made the monster. have
Oh,
power.
okay.
And supernatural.
Yeah.
Got you.
I told you, it's the only thing I know.
Historical figures who inspired vampire stories, like that would be Elizabeth Bathory of Hungary.
Countess Bathory.
Yes, she actually she would hire servant girls who didn't have a lot of family or connections or anything, and then her servants would go missing, and they found out that she was draining their blood and bathing in it to keep herself young and beautiful. And because of her and Vladimir Dracul Tepesh, Rain died. That's why between them and then Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula in the first vampire black and white movie that had sound. That's why people associate Hungary so closely with vampires and Transylvania and all of that.
Which is a real place, or was a real place apparently.
I don't remember if it's still considered Transylvania. I want to say it's not anymore.
You know.
But it would be like where Hungary and Romania are. That's where it would be. Or is it just an area in Romania? Google it. Google is your friend. Do your own research. Don't rely on a brain fog 1 hour of sleep in the past 48 hours streamer on YouTube.
How are you alive?
I'm an ancient immortal of unknown origin. Also a bastard child, so very likely a vampire.
Transylvania is a region of central Romania.
Thank you. I could not remember.
Every time I think of Transylvania, I think of the song Hotel California.
Welcome
Makes me
to
think
the
of
Hotel
Transylvania.
Maybe that's why.
Such a lovely place. Such a lovely place. We'll eat your face. I was thinking vampires, not actual Transylvanians. I'm sorry. I realized that after I said it. I was like, wait, we just established that's a real place. I need to clarify. So, wasn't that like Fruity Kreger thing to stop believing in him to weaken him?
I haven't watched those because I'm not crazy or a
I
masochist.
don't remember. I know
can't
that
look.
he exists in your nightmares.
I don't really like horror
So
movies.
if you sleep, he kills you, which is why I never have to worry about him because I don't sleep. What was Transylvania? Well, Jess just looked it up, so
Indeedy do I did.
yes. I think this is accurate. Are you sure it was Bulgaria? Not Hungary?
It was the like actual
Vladimir's castle?
Vladimir's castle was
Yeah,
the
that
brand
one's in Bulgaria. Yeah.
was the brand castle, and that is in Transylvania because it was part of the Draculesht family line.
Wait, was Dracula a real? Dracula is not a real was not a real person, right?
Vladimir Dracula was a Romanian conqueror. And Bram Stoker's Dracula drew inspiration from him and his castle. He was also known as Vlad the Impaler. And I know why, but I cannot summon the information from my brain.
It's because of that one scene from Frozen where Olaf's walking. He goes, "Oh look, I've been impaled."
Exactly.
When he would conquer places, he would take all of the bodies and impale, sometimes just the heads, but also occasionally they would
torso.
They would put a blunted point up your number 2 hole and just let your body weight drag you down the pole until it killed you.
I mean, at least they were efficient. Well, until they killed you. I was gonna say at least they were efficient about their posthumous thing. No,
until it killed you.
No,
that's why it was blunted instead of pointed.
The modern style is putting heads on sharp poles. Can't believe you don't know this.
My sister visited the castle when she was in Bulgaria. That's cool.
Were there heads on spikes?
I
Probably
don't
not
think
now.
anymore. They would have
That's a
decayed, and many other reasons that they would.
I mean, they could put fake ones.
I don't think so. I think that they would consider that. Actually, I have no idea.
At my local Renaissance fair, they have what they call the Tower of Terror, and it is like a museum that is based entirely off of medieval forms of jail and torture. And they have like actual like dummies set up, and some of them are animatronic. Like there's one where you just like constantly the guy's always getting his intestines pulled out by this big guy cranking this big wheel.
America, we have no form of maybe not.
Right.
I went somewhere on
coming
a field
from
trip
me.
to school in like 6th grade, and it was like a museum of some sort, and one of the entire areas was dedicated to torture instruments, and that's where most of my class spent our time looking at things.
We went to this place when I was in 9th grade, so I was like 13.
I think it was 6th or 7th grade for me. So 11 or 12.
As I'm looking back through these notes, in like 3 or 4 places, I have the notes vindication, and it's all in response to my perspective on Dampiers and vampire, because it's like, yeah, male vampires often fathered children, and I was like, ha ha ha, because that's what I do at 4 a.m.
I mean, do what brings you joy.
I do. That note, Jess, about the phlegm eating thing, I had to take it out. I couldn't find anything to actually. I was so sad that I had to take it out.
CB's like, the phlegm?
Please don't explain that one. I don't want to know.
Okay, I won't.
Okay,
Another
know. What is
people...
it?
Okay, so in this one, just people born on Saturdays can be vampire hunters.
I don't want to be. No,
just as long as it's Saturday, just be born on Saturday. If you're a twin born on Saturday, you get double.
I was born on Monday. I was born on a 13th. That's probably not points in my favor, though, for being a vampire hunter.
So one of the original European vampires is an upire.
Oompa Loompa
Not a Oompa Loompa, a Oopire.
from the Wonka factory.
Here are signs that your neighbor may be a Oopire.
Oh.
They were cursed before death, suddenly dead, or someone whose corpse was desecrated. Women who died in childbirth were believed to be able to return to feed on their children. An animal jumped over a corpse, suicide victims, witches, unchristened children, those who were killed by an Oopire, redheads, lefties, people with limps, unibrows, double sets of teeth, a gray mark on the back, and religiously othered, specifically.
So,
Oh yeah, also if you have a big head and no armpit or pubic hair. No
that's
shaving for you.
weirdly specific.
That is.
Oh, burying someone in an old shirt may also turn them into a Oopire. Best buy them a new shirt to bury them.
Fuck poor people, I guess.
Oh, they were considered to have two hearts and or souls, which is a thing that
They're a Time Lord.
Have. Or is
Maybe that's why there is a vampire episode of Doctor Who.
They were like fish aliens.
I don't know. I've never seen it, so
It was a really weird episode.
So
it was like after all of a sudden Amy was in love with the Doctor, and like we needed to stop that because age difference. And then like Rory was there, and so like he was the third wheel, but also the husband. It was a weird episode, but it had vampires, so kind of.
Signs on a corpse are a lack of rigor mortis, a flushed face, or blood beneath the nails. And signs of misdeeds among family or neighbors could be fatigue, paleness, sweat, or reoccurring nightmares. Because Oopires can haunt their friends or family, so if like your family's fatigued or paleness, they might be being haunted.
Some motherfucker is haunting me because I am always fucking tired.
Like,
I am
chronic fatigue
as shit. And I have the same recurring nightmares that I've had since I was like 5.
Well, if you want to find the Oopire responsible, send an innocent child into a cemetery via horseback and have them point out the grave.
Huh. Or hire some twins born on a Saturday to get the oxen and draw
that's
around your town.
The village. I don't know if it'll work around a single house.
Do it around your entire village. It's a neighborly deed, Jess.
I have 2 sets of twins in my family, so I've got a pretty good shot of finding a pair.
There you go. Were they born on a Saturday?
I don't know. I'm going to have to find out.
All right. They could also be seen in mirrors at night, so no one looked in a mirror after dusk. Which, same, I don't like. I cannot tell you how many times I scared the fuck out of myself walking into my bathroom.
There's a mirror, so like my door's right there, right? There's a mirror on this wall. So if you walk in my room and turn to the side, you'll look straight at yourself.
Right.
To freak people out.
They also, when they arrive at night, carrying their heads in their arms, or if their heads are still attached, they'll have wolf-like eyes. If they come in the day, they do like random shit, like climbing bell towers and killing everyone who hears their shriek. Wild times.
That sounds like a banshee.
They drank human blood, use superhuman strength to tear their victims apart. They can breathe or shriek, whichever one they want. They could also make people sleepwalk or suffocate in their sleep. Though sometimes they
Someone definitely killed their husband and was like, hey, it was the vampire.
This is the yes. This is the chore one. Sometimes they did their chores when the chores they had when they were alive and otherwise harassed their family.
Huh.
And it's just like
that's when someone's dead on their feet. Like right. You've been making them do the same damn thing for 20 years, and that bitch is just like
just autopiloting.
After they die, they can't escape.
So some prevention or protection. Remember, these are all for like the same thing or region, and it's believed that this is the prototype or the precursor for all or most of the vampires of this region, which is the Slavic region, which again, Google your maps. Take the dead out, not through the main door. Don't take them out through the main door. Take them out through the side door.
Servant's entrance, yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you're poor, you don't have a servant. The back door.
You have more than one door?
Your laundry
Probably
door.
don't have a back door. Shove them out a window.
Put a garlic head, bricks, or chunk of iron into their mouths before burial.
Now we know why they're afraid of garlic.
The coffins were sprinkled with poppy seeds, so the umpires would have a chore picking all the seeds up to do, or giving them like knots or nets to untangle in the grave. Keep them occupied like a child. A vampire burial would be to decapitate and place the head between the corpse legs, burn the corpse, or nail the corpse to the coffin, or just reposition them head down or face down so that they face the dirt.
Oof.
The reason for that is because it's believed that if they like come back to their body, they'll see the ground and just go back down to the underworld. Which really, why isn't that just what we do for everybody if that was effective?
If it's that easy, why don't we just bury everybody facing inward?
Right.
I think we should bury people upside down. Like, instead of standing up, upside down. I just think it'd be funny.
If a umpire is harassing you, just like you can walk them back to their grave. You can drink their blood.
No. Let's go home.
Or you can eat their grave soil.
Ugh. That's not sanitary.
These are always the things. I like how that's the biggest concern here. An undead being is coming back to fuck with you, and you're just like, that's corpse blood.
Yeah.
I feel like the easiest way to get rid of vampires permanently would be to just burn all corpses.
Burn it and salt it. That's what I learned over all the years. And ambulance. Find an amulet that works. So other common causes, like during birth, are being born with a caul, which is a face thing. Ah, fuck. I don't remember exactly, but it's CAUL. And teeth or tail. So if you're born with teeth or tail, or if you were conceived on specific days, you may also be a umpire.
How do they know whether you were conceived on? They don't even know how many months. Yep.
Because everyone kept a precise record when they have sex.
Well, there's actually cultures that when like a newlywed couple have their honeymoon, they're observed by older family members.
Which is so fucking creepy.
It is.
Box off. Go somewhere else. Don't.
It is. I'm just saying that might be how they know, or how they think they know if a baby is conceived on a honeymoon.
Future reference: a caul is a piece of membrane that can cover the newborn's head and face. It is very rare and occurs in fewer than 1 in 80,000 births.
So there you go. In life, you are a magician, an immoral person, or excommunicated. In death,
someone does a card trick. It's like, oh my god, you're gonna be a vampire.
It's an vampire. Yes. In death, your death was unnatural or untimely, so you were murdered or committed suicide. Improper burial rituals. That's very big. Very,
so
very
upside
big.
Down.
An animal jumped or a bird flew over your corpse or your empty grave. In Serbia, specifically. The empty grave one.
Seems like
why is your grave empty? Because for your grave to be empty, wouldn't you have to have already become a vampire?
No, it's before you get put in.
Yeah, it's before you get put in.
You dig the hole, then the bird, and then you're like, it's gonna be a vampire. It's not digging a hole.
Dig a new hole.
Also, in southern Russia, if you talk to yourself, you might be an umpire. I keep saying umpire, but it's umpire.
I'm definitely an umpire then.
Also, umpires could appear as butterflies, which is believed to be because this area had a belief that butterflies symbolize departed souls.
I want to be a butterfly.
And then there's also the Strigoi thing with the two souls, or that they were witches.
Time word.
I'm a
But
witch.
yeah. So... But are you a striga?
I don't think so.
Well, that's good, because then you'd have to vomit blood in the woods every time you drink it.
That sounds
Cool,
horrible.
I'm still alive.
I want to know who followed this striga into the woods to find
You know,
out what it was doing.
I need to know who followed her, who soaked a coin in her blood and then wrapped a cloth in it and then went, let me test this out.
Guys,
Who
I got a
tested out
great
running
idea.
up a hill backwards with a candle and a turtle?
That one I
No, it just like happened.
You're like trying to run in the middle of the night and save your turtle.
No. So this is,
I don't know why you're running
the
backwards.
vampire is stalking you,
What?
right? And you're walking your pet turtle, and you have a candle because it's nighttime. You don't want to trip and hurt your pet turtle. And the vampire is stalking you, so it's in front of you. So you're like, well, I got to keep my eyes on it. And like, I just have my turtle. I'm not gonna throw my turtle away. And the candle, I gotta see. So you run backwards. You just happen to have a hill behind you, and the vampire runs away because you're weird.
Right. And the last vampire tidbit that I will share on tonight's stream is protection and prevention against a strigoi is a very specific 7-step process.
Oh.
You heavily nail a coffin shut. No, wait, sorry. There's 2 methods. One is a 6-step process. The other one. You heavily nail a coffin shut. But if this doesn't work, exhume the strigoi. Remove its heart and cut it in 2. Drive a nail in its forehead. Place a clove of garlic under its tongue. Smear its body with the fat of a pig killed on St. Ignatius Day. And turn its body face down so that if the strigoi were to ever wake up, it would be headed for the afterlife.
Burn it.
Effective. Salt and burn.
Why do they not believe in burning bodies? Like,
well,
does that not solve the issue?
In Greece, there's actually a thing against burning a body.
I don't know. I can't speak of this.
Hold on.
Like, never mind. I don't know things.
Let me go back to the Greeks real quick.
I mean, I know
about the Greeks today.
I know that in like Christianity and Catholicism and Judaism, they believe that you need to have a body for your soul to come back to for the final battle. But if your body is consumed by a vampire, there's no vacancy here. You can't get back in it anyway.
Almost done. I mean, yeah,
but you're a vampire.
I think that's probably it.
It's not
Because the
consumed
Greek
by a
one
vampire.
mentioned
You are a vampire now.
Catholicism.
Sure.
You can purify that soul.
Okay, I lied because I just remembered the knocking thing. Did I tell y'all about the knocking neighbor?
No.
Okay, so in Greece, they believed that if your dead neighbor came back to life and knocked on your door, just ignore them and they'll go away. But if you call out to them and you're like, "Oh, Stu, it's you," then they'll go away, but a couple days later, they'll come back and they'll suffocate you by sitting on you.
So basically, don't be nice to your neighbors.
Well, they're like, don't answer on the first knock, answer on the second.
Oh.
So it's like, and because this is a common belief, nobody's going to get like offended if you don't answer them on the first. Because you're like, I get it. You're just trying to make sure that I'm not an undead creature that's going to kill you later. It's fine. I just needed a cup of sugar.
But that's only if they're dead.
Yes, but what if you don't know if your neighbor died? Because one of the ways that you become a vampire in the same Greek area is that you die alone.
Aw, that's kind of sad.
All the things that we've talked about today, and that's the one that's sad.
That's the one that gets her.
Yeah.
People dying in childbirth or murdered or everything. She's like,
I mean, at least you have the murderer there. It's company.
right.
I worry about
Ignore all knocks in case of ghosts is what I'm hearing. Fair.
You're not wrong.
It's another way. Also, like iron, salt, garlic. It's pretty good.
For all
Starter kit.
demonic creatures.
Holy water.
Also, aloe vera above your threshold. That was another way. I forgot which region. I approve of justifying my antisocial. Yes. All right. So, thank you, lovely people, for joining us. My co-hosts must do their outros because no, I know you're tired, but I didn't forget.
I don't care. Hello, my name is Jessica. I am linked down below. I make writing, reading, and book related videos a couple times a week. Right now, I'm doing Veda, so I'm doing a video every weekday. So there's lots of me if you want to see my face.
Awesome.
CB.
I'm CB. I almost just said my real name. I was like practicing in my head. And I was like, no, that's incorrect. I'm CB Ferrenz, writer, YouTuber, and teenager college student. I go back to college tomorrow. Yay! Yeah.
Also,
I make videos sometimes. Woo! I'm down below too.
And I am Writing Mom Samantha L. Nasset. This is my channel where I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer parent things. On Mondays, I host live streams like this where we have a good time and I go over an ass ton of notes. And sometimes we do write-ins where we talk and do writing sprints and have a good time. When I post videos, I post them on Thursdays. If you'd like to follow all things Sam, sign up to my newsletter down below at samanthaalnasset.com. If you'd like to support the channel, my Ko-fi is linked below.
Give Sam money.
And I think that is everything. Thank you, lovely. Oh, yes. Like the stream. If you like the stream and you liked all of this stuff, maybe subscribe, ring the bell. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for watching on the replay. We will catch you later. Bye.